He died trying to save his research, but when he opened his eyes again, he was no longer in his own body. Now he was Kim Yoo-sung, a student with the face of a delinquent, a monstrous physique, and a presence so intimidating that he looked like he came straight out of JoJo. But there was one problem. This wasn't a world of battles. It was a romantic comedy manga. And Yoo-seong didn't wake up as the main character. He woke up as a completely irrelevant background character. So his plan was simple. Stay away from the protagonist, avoid the heroines, and live quietly behind the scenes. But that was impossible, because with that intimidating face, that absurd body, and that monster-like aura, everyone started treating him like the most dangerous guy in school. And the more Yoo-seong tried to escape the plot, the more the main girls were drawn straight toward him. Now, the background character who is supposed to be forgotten is about to steal the protagonist's role without even realizing it. Sitting with a flushed face, a blonde girl thinks she also likes manga and wonders how everything ended up that way. With a smile, a red-haired girl holds someone's hand and asks if he is serious about that. Looking sideways, a dark-haired girl in a kimono looks shy and reflects that she just wanted to have a normal life. With her arms crossed, a blue-haired young woman smiles confidently and thinks about the thing she has recently started to love. Panting, Kim Yoo-seong covers his face in despair as he thinks about how things ended up that way for him. To the sound of a heart monitor, an eye opens slowly while a distant voice yells for a doctor nearby. Lying in a hospital bed, the young Yoo-seong looks confused and wonders where he is at that exact moment. A doctor leans in and asks if the young man remembers anything, but Yoo-seong thinks he is just an ordinary student. He then remembers a fire in his lab where he tried to save his research but ended up passing out in the process. At that, the boy looks to the side in the bed and realizes the place seems to be a very dark hospital room. Suddenly, his eyes widen in complete surprise at the situation he finds himself in within that room. Looking at his reflection in something, the young man is shocked to realize that face is not truly his. From the memories that surfaced over the 2 days in the hospital, the young man begins to understand what happened to him. With a serious expression sitting in the car, the young man finally comes to the conclusion that he was transmigrated. The owner of this body is Kim Yoo-seong, a Korean student living in Japan with his parents who was preparing for high school. The boy suffered a car accident over the weekend, and because of that, he was unconscious for several days in the hospital. Then he understands that he passed away in the fire and possessed the body of the real Kim Yoo-seong, who was unconscious. The young man then realizes something and wonders if this means he is finally free from the nightmare of grad school. But he decides not to jump to conclusions, as this possession could suddenly end at any moment. Arriving at the new house, he observes the place and questions how he will manage to adapt to his new life there. His new mother asks him to go rest a bit, and the boy agrees, going up the stairs to the second floor. His body moves on its own to the bedroom door, and he realizes that must be Kim Yoo-seong's room. Thinking it is weird to invade someone's room, he opens the door slowly and excuses himself before entering the place. As soon as he looks inside, his eyes widen completely in shock, and he wonders what all of that is. The room is packed with posters and animate items everywhere, leaving the young man quite impressed with the scene. A bright light shines on a figurine of a blonde anime girl, making the young man think it cannot be real. Seeing dolls and more items scattered around, he concludes that the former owner of that body was an obsessive geek, and that what he was seeing was insane. With a tired expression on his face, the boy closes the bedroom door behind him, thinking about what he just saw. Sitting on the floor and sighing, the young man wonders if he is really going to be able to live as the true Kim Yoo-seong. He knows that if he acts differently, his parents will find it weird, but he does not understand anything about the things the boy liked. He wonders what to do to act normally and soon notices something taped to his closet door. Looking closer, he sees a poster of a young man who looks a lot like Kim Yoo-seong because of the hair and the bracelet. With a huge scare, the young man throws himself backward onto the bedroom floor, completely shocked by what he is seeing. At that moment, he realizes that is the poster of the main character from a very famous manga. With a flushed face, he understands that Kim Yoo-seong was such a hardcore fan that he even dressed like the character. If that is the case, he needs to learn to act the same, and so he starts looking for the manga on the bedroom shelf. Picking up one of the volumes, the young man finds the cover a bit weird and wonders what kind of story that would be. But as he holds the book, he begins to feel like he has seen a character like the one on the cover somewhere else before. He then remembers the manga Scramble Love, a work that was a hit and sold 10 million copies. That manga followed the classic romantic comedy formula, but with a style that greatly pleased fans at the time. However, in the final volume, the author of the work surprised everyone when the protagonist married his childhood friend. Because of this unexpected ending, the entire fan community was furious, and this generated a lot of online discussion. Seeing that the story he picked up seems to be the same type, he decides to start reading to better understand the character. He begins to read and gets so involved in the story that time flies by, and he can no longer stop. Ultimately, he found the story very good and ended up spending the entire night reading the other volumes too. His mother then calls him from downstairs and asks Yoo-seong to take down orders if any customer arrives at the restaurant. He responds in an awkward way, but his mother thinks it is normal, and the young man wonders what kind of life the young Yoo-seong led. Putting on the apron, he thinks that being the son of a barbecue restaurant owner is great for eating a lot. Welcoming the customers, the protagonist gets a surprised expression upon seeing who has just walked in. The young man wonders where he knows those people from while the blonde girl asks the young man not to stray too far from her. With a smile, she says she is going to feed him today, and that is why he will not be able to run away from her no matter what. The girl calls the blonde boy Ryuji, leaving the young man with an expression of someone who is not enjoying the situation very much. Upon hearing the name Ryuji, our protagonist freezes and begins to connect the dots of what is happening. In that instant, a clear image of the manga scramble love appears in his mind, and he finally understands everything. He realizes that the customer in front of him is Sakamoto Ryuji, the main character of that famous manga he remembered. Our hero stands still in shock, processing the information while the couple stares at him without understanding why. Trembling with nerves, he realizes this is not a normal reincarnation and that he has ended up inside a book. Recapping his story, he was a student who passed out in a fire and woke up in Kim Yoo-seong's body. The big problem is that Kim Yoo-seong was just an extra character with absolutely no importance in the manga scramble love. To sum up the situation, he possessed a character inside a book that was exactly the manga he read all night. The problem is that he did not read the manga, he only saw spoilers, and therefore has no advantage at the moment. He needs to think calmly because, even though it is a book, the world feels real and is not that dangerous. So, the young man decides he just needs to avoid getting involved with the story's protagonist, Sakamoto Ryuji. That way, he believes he will finally be able to live a normal and peaceful life as an extra. With the plan in mind, he read all the books to act like Yoo-seong and even transferred to a school far away. Being a former college student, he entered as the top student and managed to get a full scholarship. After enrolling, the boy joined the student council and slowly changed his personality. Despite all his efforts in the time that passed, the possession of the body was never undone. Now older, he accepts that he needs to adapt to this life and prepares for an uncertain future. For this, the young man plans to study and save money, maybe even investing in some stocks. The young man also decides to train hard, as he believes strength and endurance are essential to live. Even though it is a romantic comedy, it is better to have strength and not need it than the opposite. He pushes himself to the max at the gym and feels the difficulty of the heavy exercises he does. But for him, all this effort is extremely satisfying and very fun to do. As time passes, a girl observes the young man, who now has a strong body, walking through the school. Full of confidence, he checks the bulletin board to find out which class he is in this new year. Turning around with a smile, the young man greets a classmate who also arrived early that day. Another student calls him and asks which class he got, noticing how much the boy has changed. With a serious look, Yoo-seong replies that he still does not know which classroom he will be in. Walking around campus, he realizes he is already a high school sophomore in that world. Our protagonist then reflects that his first year there flew by so fast. During the last few months, he went hard on his workouts, lifting a lot of weight at the gym. The young man got extremely strong and muscular, doing all of this to be able to protect himself. He knows that because he is in a manga, things like ghosts and even underworld syndicates can appear out of nowhere. Because of this, he prepared for any unexpected future and not just to build muscle. He managed to get through his first year quietly and plans to stay that way until the end. But upon arriving at his new classroom, he hears a familiar voice wishing young Ryuji a good morning. There was Yaguchi Maya, the main heroine of the original manga, waving to her friend. By her side, Sakamoto Ryuji, the story's protagonist, looked annoyed about something. Yoo-seong then realized his plan has failed, as he ended up landing in the exact same class as Ryuji. Annoyed, Yoo-seong thinks that he chose a school far away just to avoid him and mourns his peaceful school life. Nearby, Ryuji says he has had a bad feeling since morning because he ended up losing his wallet. He goes on to say that he bumped into a girl he had never seen before, and Yoo-seong realizes what is happening. At that moment, the teacher enters the room and asks everyone to sit down and be quiet for the start of class. Holding a clipboard, the teacher knows the first day is chaotic but asks the students to calm down a bit. He then reveals that he has an important announcement to make, and the whole class gets curious to know what it is. With a smile, the teacher announces to the class that they have a new transfer student and calls her to come in. A beautiful blonde girl walks into the room with a radiant smile and a very confident expression for the class. All the students are impressed by her beauty, and the teacher jokes that they should pay more attention in class. Next, the teacher explains that the newcomer does not know the school and asks her to introduce herself to everyone. The girl says her name is Kishimoto Rika and that she likes sweet cats and taking naps in her free time. Observing everything, Yoo-seong notices the classic pattern of romantic comedy stories repeating itself right there. It was obvious that with the protagonist in the same room, a new heroine would arrive as a transfer student to the class. The name Kishimoto Rika was familiar because he read online that she ranked first in the popularity poll. Even though she was not the winner at the end of the story, the young man already knew her because of the spoilers. The teacher then points to the empty desk next to Ryuji and asks him to take good care of their new classmate. With wide eyes, Ryuji recognizes her and remembers she was the girl he saw earlier on the street. The young Rika also recognizes him and gets a look of shock and a lot of anger at the young man all at once. In a flashback, she remembers bumping into him on the street and without thinking twice, calls him a creep. Ryuji denies the accusation, but the teacher thinks it is great the two already know each other and tells them to sit down quickly. The girl sits down and shoots a furious glare at the young man, who is left not knowing what to do about that situation. Turning her face away in disdain, the new student clearly shows that she did not like her new classmate one bit. Shortly after, she places the young man's wallet on the desk and asks if that object really belongs to him. Watching the scene, Yoo-seong sighs and wonders if he will have to put up with this for another 2 years of his life. He thinks he did not want plot twists in high school, since everything he did up to now was to secure his future. Even without having read the manga, the young man believes he can predict things because the world follows romantic logic. But he also knows that mangas never follow the expected path, which is why he always read the latest magazines. The young man did this to stay up to date with all types of plot patterns in romantic comedies. Suddenly, Ruji gets Rika's attention and says he needs to tell her something important outside for a moment. With a serious expression, the boy says the matter is about what happened between the two of them earlier that morning. With a flushed face, the blonde girl agrees to talk to him, but only for 1 minute. While the two leave the room, a classmate wonders if something is going on between the new couple. Yuseong then says he is also going out and uses the excuse that he really needs to go to the restroom right then. With a determined look, our protagonist follows the two through the school hallways to see what is going to happen. Other students see him and whisper that he looks like a hitman or even a very dangerous syndicate member. The young man gets annoyed by the rumors but realizes his intimidating reputation helps him go unnoticed. He sighs and decides to check out the event between the two, as he has already studied enough about rom-com patterns. For his predictions to become reality, he needs to see everything in person to be able to collect data. Thinking a little, the young man remembers that in this school there is only one place where a boy and a girl can be alone. With a focused and serious look, our hero is certain that there is only one single location for this meeting. And as expected, the couple went to talk behind the school, confirming our protagonist's suspicion. There, the young Ruji bows an apology and swears to the girl that he did not do that on purpose. Hiding in the bushes, Yuseong recognizes the scene and calls it a classic apology trap. He cannot believe the boy is doing that embarrassing pose and thinks it is something typical of a protagonist. With her arms crossed, Rika stares at him with a serious expression and does not seem impressed by the apology. Suddenly, the girl starts laughing out loud, leaving the blonde young man completely confused by her reaction. With a mischievous smile, she says he is much more innocent and pure than she imagined him to be. Confused, Ruji asks if she was not mad, but Rika replies that the morning accident was no big deal. Hidden Yuseong hears her say that she only acted that way because his shocked face was very funny. Our hero then understands that her bright personality is the reason Rika is #1 in popularity. He also confirms that this is her first major encounter event with the story's male protagonist. Crouched behind the plants, the young man concludes that this is a textbook romantic comedy opening. At that exact moment, a mysterious voice appears behind him and calls out Kim Yuseong's full name loudly. A girl holding a fan asks what a future student council secretary is doing crouching around there. Right after, the young woman accuses him of doing something shameful like spying on the girls at school. The young lady is Seonji Kumiko, the head of the student council and a character with a classic villain profile. But he knows that in reality, she is a tragic character who merely becomes a rival in the original story. To play it off, Yuseong picks up a tree branch and says he was thinking of using it for decorations in the council room. The girl seems to doubt his excuse and questions the idea of putting something like that in the student council room. Our protagonist stares back at her and thinks that even with the excuse, the situation is still quite complicated. The girl accepts the branch and says she will at least put it in the school staff meeting room. Yuseong says thanks and is surprised that his improvised excuse for the situation actually worked. Next, the young woman asks what brings him there, since she thought he would be very busy at the start of the semester. The young lady reveals that she wanted to have a meal with the council members to build bonds and gave him a chance. With a smile, she tells him to hurry to the cafeteria with her before all the good seats are taken. The young man finds the invitation weird because he knows there is nothing on the menu there that suits her palate. The student council president then says he really does not know her as well as he thinks he does. With a wide smile and bright eyes, she asks if he thinks she does not understand the food and culture of commoners. The girl recalls that she ate a bowl of rice with fried pork at the staff restaurant and had no problems. Yuseong finds her statement impressive since she only eats wagyu beef in the council room and complains about the portion sizes. Awkwardly, the young man informs her that unfortunately, the school cafeteria does not serve the dish she mentioned. She gets annoyed and asks what they have then, and the young man replies that there is a similar dish called juden. The girl thinks the name of the dish is very strange and wrong and does not seem the least bit excited to try it. With a face of disgust, the young woman asks if she really has to eat that so-called judon for lunch. Annoyed, our hero questions her since she herself bragged about being different from the ignorant masses at school. Suddenly, a bespectacled young man appears and reveals himself to be Akaki Shinjiro, the student council vice president. The young man recognizes Yuseong and asks if it is really him, leaving the council president quite surprised by the scene. Adjusting his glasses, the vice president seems to understand what was going on between the two at that moment. Furious, the young man yells at Yuseong and demands to know if he realizes he is part of the school's student council. He goes on to say that the poor president skipped her meal just to go out and look for him around the school. Yuseong is confused and wonders how the girl can be considered poor if she was eating wagyu beef. Embarrassed, the council president denies everything and says she never claimed to be sad or hungry to him. The vice president does not calm down and states that he will no longer tolerate Yuseong's insolent behavior toward her. He declares himself a loyal servant of the Seonji family and drags the girl back to the council room. While being dragged away, the young man shouts threats at Yuseong, and the president says goodbye, mentioning they will postpone the meal. Alone and completely confused, our protagonist admits that he no longer has any idea what is going on. Later, after class, he finds himself at the subway station heading home after a very busy day. In the crowded subway car, his intimidating presence makes the other students keep their distance from him out of fear. He reflects that the day of the protagonist's event was when the story of Scramble Love truly began. Thanks to his training, everyone avoids him like a plague, and so he thinks there is no reason to get involved with Ruji. With a confident smile, he realizes that having a strong body was the right decision and that size is everything. The station board shows that the next train will only arrive in 10 minutes, leaving the young man a bit frustrated. While waiting, our hero thinks that now he just needs to live his normal life as a background character behind the scenes. Everything was going according to his plan, but suddenly he feels a hand touching his shoulder from behind. It was the young Rika, who introduces herself and asks if he is the Kim from her class, leaving the young man totally surprised. With a panicked expression and flushed face, our protagonist wonders why she is there with him. The girl says with a smile that she was worried, but is happy to have found him so quickly there. She then shows her cell phone and asks if he knows how to get to the address on the device's screen. The young man wonders how she knows his name if they barely spoke to each other during the first day of class. The girl then points to the name tag on his school uniform and says the answer is quite obvious. With a smile, she says his name is written right there and calls him Kim in a friendly way. Feeling awkward, our hero realizes he had completely forgotten about the name tag on his uniform. Rika then says he is a nice guy and that she was right about him from the first moment she saw him. Confused, the young man wonders why she has such a good opinion of him if she barely really knows him. With a drop of sweat running down his face, our hero has absolutely no idea what she is talking about. He then asks how she remembered him and why she thought he was a good person from the start. The girl replies that he was giving off a weird energy in the classroom and that it would be impossible not to notice. She also reveals that she heard rumors about him fighting 50 bikers and being scouted by a talent agent. The young woman finishes by saying he is a cool guy for letting the queen of the class approach him so casually. With a serious look, Yuseong realizes that in such a short time, the girl has already created a completely wrong image of him. Panicking, he thinks that getting involved with one of the two main heroines of the story is a huge mistake. The young man realizes it is no wonder she ranked first in the popularity poll and wonders what to do. Suddenly, the girl calls out to him loudly, pulling our protagonist out of his deep thoughts. She complains that he did not even respond to her compliment and, with puffed cheeks, seems a bit annoyed. Awkwardly, our hero just thanks her for the compliment without really knowing how to react to that situation. The girl says others might misunderstand him, but that she knows one day everyone will see who he truly is. She suggests he think of the stories as part of the plot and says he seems nice despite his appearance. With a radiant smile, the young woman offers to be his friend until everyone gets to know him better for real. Our hero realizes that trying to scare her off would not have worked anyway with that girl. He concludes that with her personality, they would interact either way and decides to play along for now. But he needs to maintain his extra act, and so he agrees to count on the girl's help too. The plan worked, and with a smile, the young woman is very happy with his response at that moment. She then remembers she almost forgot to ask the most important thing and shows her home address. The girl explains it is her new address, but the subway lines are very confusing and she is lost. Our hero recognizes the neighborhood as a wealthy residential area and wonders if she is also a rich girl. He says the place is close to his house and that they will take the same train, making the young woman very excited. He explains that his station is just 2 stops away from hers and shows the exact location on the map. The girl is surprised by the coincidence and thinks it is destiny, but Yuseong sees it as a huge problem. With a serious expression, our protagonist realizes that since things have reached this point, he needs to act. He prepared himself to survive, but there is still a fatal flaw because he never read the original story. So the young man decides the best thing to do is become friends with Rika to get information straight from the source. He imagines a scene where he could even blackmail the protagonist into helping the girl if something goes very wrong. In the original story, the protagonist gets help from a classmate, so a slight change should not affect the plot. With the decision made, the young man offers to buy her a drink from the station's vending machine. He says it is a thank you for her being his friend, and the young Rika chooses a sweet soda. The girl takes the soda can and drinks it all at once, quenching the thirst she felt at that moment. With an expression of pure satisfaction, she says there is nothing better than a good cold soda. She confesses she had not had one in a while because she was on a diet to maintain her good model figure. Yuseong is surprised to hear the girl was on a diet, as she already seems to be in great shape. The young woman then shows fashion photos on her cell phone and reveals she was a magazine model in her hometown. She explains that taking care of her body is a must for any professional model, which is why the diet is important. He comments that she looks different in the photos, but Rika gets annoyed and denies that makeup is the only difference. The train arrives and he calls her to leave, but the girl complains that he is changing the subject too fast. The green subway departs from the station at high speed, taking the two to their respective homes after class. Inside the car, 2 men comment that Yuseong looks like a thug and that if he hears them, they will be in huge trouble. The other passengers also stare at him in fear and avoid making eye contact with our protagonist. Rika then says that thanks to him she found a shortcut, but Yuseong thinks that is a route hijacking. He then grabs the subway map and says they need to figure out how to get her home safely. The young man points the way and the girl rushes to follow him, saying she cannot walk that fast. When the doors open, he steps off and the young Rika stays behind, asking if he is abandoning her there. He then says goodbye, telling her he is getting off there and that her station is 2 stops ahead of his. The girl waves from the train door, thanking him and saying she will count on him tomorrow at school too. Alone on the platform, our protagonist wonders what she meant by counting on him. He is confused and does not understand why the girl is acting in such a strange way with him. The next day at lunchtime, several excited students invite their friends to go to the cafeteria. But one of the students sadly realizes he ended up forgetting his lunchbox at home that day. Away from the commotion, Yuseong opens his lunchbox, which is full of kimbap prepared by his mother earlier. Using chopsticks, he picks up one of the rolls and gets ready to savor his delicious meal of the day. Suddenly, he hears a familiar voice and sees the young Rika standing in front of him with a shy expression. The girl asks if he has been eating alone every day in that same isolated spot at school. The young man explains that he feels uncomfortable eating in the classroom and therefore prefers to eat lunch alone there. He tells her not to worry and reminds her that she herself said one day everyone would see his true self. Until then, our hero states he just needs to wait quietly, but the girl does not seem to agree with that. The young woman then recognizes the food and asks if she can try a piece, since she had only seen that in dramas. The young man agrees, a bit surprised, and thinks she can change moods very quickly depending on the situation. Rika jokes that he is being funny and asks if she can keep having lunch with him from that day on. He says he cannot bring kimbap every day, but the girl denies that it is just because of the food. The young man then realizes he has gotten closer to Rika, and that her company is not as weird as he thought. The young woman loves the food and asks if his family really owns a Korean restaurant like the rumors say. He says thanks for the compliment, and the girl asks him to tell his mother that she loved the kimbap she ate. The next day, she offers a Japanese omelet in exchange for some of our protagonist's kimbap. The young man accepts the trade and grabs a piece of the omelet the girl prepared for his lunch that day. With a satisfied look, he brings the piece of omelet to his mouth and chews slowly to taste the flavor. Suddenly, his eyes widen in complete shock, and his face turns red from the taste of her food. The omelet was extremely sweet, and he thinks that not even a sugar fanatic could handle that flavor. He asks how much sugar she put in, and Rika replies that she just added what she thought would be right. With a gloomy aura, the young man says eating so much sweet stuff is bad for you, and that next time he will teach her to make it differently. She asks what he uses, and our hero answers that he puts in salt, but the girl finds the idea disgusting. The young Rika says he has weird taste but that it is okay because everyone has their own differences. The two continue arguing about the right seasoning for omelets, creating a very noisy scene in the area. From afar, our protagonist spots the student council president and vice president standing still. With a disgusted expression, the girl seems to be eating something she does not like very much at that moment. She then thinks that heaven might forgive improper relationships between students, but she cannot. As student council president, she angrily declares that she will not allow such behavior at school. Yu Seong does not understand and wonders what kind of improper relationship she is talking about now. The vice president approaches and says a boy and a girl eating lunch together in a corner is suspicious. The bespectacled young man continues his lecture, stating that making excuses after getting caught is a shameful attitude. Yuseong denies everything and says they have been running into each other a lot lately, which makes him very suspicious. The president chimes in and says it is normal for them to see each other since he is part of the Grand Student Council. He stares at her and asks if she has something to tell him, leaving the girl a bit awkward with the question. Suddenly, Rika remembers and calls her the Dark Student Council president, surprising everyone. The president is completely speechless at the new nickname she just received from the new student. Rika explains there is a rumor that she walks around alone in her black uniform and that she now understands why. Furious, the president shouts that the uniform exists to project the council's dignity and not to look gloomy. The blonde girl suggests she accept the nickname since everyone calls her a cosplayer anyway. The president is shocked to learn that other students mock her and call her a cosplayer behind her back. Angrily, the young student leader grabs Rika's hair and swears she will get revenge for that humiliation. She runs away covering her face in shame, and the vice president follows her, worried about what happened. The young man with glasses yells for his lady to wait for him as he desperately runs after her across the courtyard. Rika turns to Yuseong and asks what she did wrong, but he replies that he has absolutely no idea. Later, in the classroom, Rika calls him excitedly and seems to have already forgotten about the incident from earlier. The girl asks why he has not gone home yet if class ended quite a while ago for everyone. He shows the club guide and explains that he was thinking of joining one now that he has more free time. With an excited smile, the young woman suggests they visit some clubs together to try out the activities. He looks thoughtful, and Rika says it is better to try things out than to just sit around thinking about what to do in life. Yuseong agrees with the idea, and the girl excitedly asks which club they should visit first. The young man reveals he plans to visit every club in the school, leaving the young Rika very surprised by the news. With a sinister smile, he says he is doing this because he is curious to know about one thing. Enveloped in an aura of power, he reveals that he wants to test how far his strength can truly take him. Their first stop, then, is the school's soccer club, where he intends to show off his new skills. With a powerful kick, the ball flies at high speed toward the goal right in front. But the ball goes over the crossbar, and the goalkeeper complains that the player's aim is very bad. One of the troublemakers gets annoyed at having missed 5 shots in a row without scoring a single goal. He challenges his friend to try, and the soccer team players get annoyed by the presence of the two there. The other delinquent gets ready to kick and says there is nothing hard about scoring a goal. Suddenly, a mysterious voice grabs the duo's attention, and they turn around to see who is talking to them. They get scared upon recognizing the player approaching them with a very serious expression on his face. The young man says he needs the field and asks if the two mind leaving the place so he can practice. The delinquents are terrified to realize it is Ryohei, the captain of the soccer team. Fearfully, they apologize for the trouble and run off the field to avoid getting into more problems. One of the players thanks the captain, and he replies that it is common to find guys like those around there. The captain then asks about this year's freshmen, and the player answers that no one has stood out yet. The team leader is worried because he really wanted to win nationals, but does not have enough talent on the squad. He believes that if they got a strong freshman, this year's results could be very different. Just thinking about the team's current situation makes the captain very angry, and he grinds his teeth in frustration. The troublemakers who were kicked out think about going back to fight, but one of them gives up the idea. The other accuses him of being scared of the captain and reminds him that his kicks go over 100 kilometers per hour. The delinquent says fighting is not just about physique, and that experience is what matters most in a brawl. Suddenly, he bumps into someone and turns around furiously to see who dared interrupt him mid-sentence. He comes face to face with Yuseong, who stares at him with a serious expression after their unexpected bump. With an intimidating look, our protagonist asks the young man to repeat what he just said. The two delinquents recognize him and are paralyzed with fear by the presence of the feared school student. They scream that he is the heir to the mad dog's fist and run away desperately to save their lives. Yuseong and Rika are confused by the scene and do not understand what just happened to those two. Other students comment that he defeated the troublemakers with just a look and that he is amazing. Rika scolds him for picking a fight, but he explains that he only looked at them because they spoke to him. The girl replies that for him, even looking is a problem, and the young man realizes it will not be easy. One of the soccer team players notices the presence of the two and becomes curious about the situation. He is astonished to recognize Yuseong and wonders why he is there on the soccer field. The player believes our hero is there to get revenge on the troublemakers who bothered him earlier. The captain reassures his teammate, saying he doubts Yuseong is there for such a petty reason. The player is still worried because he heard he was forced to join the council and banned from clubs. The captain admits he also heard many bad rumors, but seeing him now, his opinion has changed. He believes Yuseong is not the type to waste time with delinquents, as he is already at a national level. The team leader then approaches and says he has heard a lot about our protagonist around school. He introduces himself as Ryohei, the club captain, and asks what brings him there on that specific day. Yuseong replies that he would like to try out for the club and asks what he needs to do to join. The captain is impressed by his presence, and even though he is not much taller, feels like a dwarf. Our hero's muscles are so massive that not even his clothes can hide his physique. The captain then imagines that with Yuseong on the team, the dream of winning nationals could become a reality. With a determined look, the team leader decides he wants that young man on his squad no matter what. He apologizes for staring and offers to explain how the club's tryout process works. The test is simple and consists of kicking the ball with all his might from the penalty spot, with only one chance. Yuseong thinks that with only one chance and all his strength, he needs to give his maximum effort on the kick. Staring at the goal with fury, our hero decides to go all out to show his true power. He focuses all his energy into his legs and prepares for the most powerful kick he can deliver. With a 300-kilogram scream, he releases all his strength in a single, devastating leg motion. The purple ore explodes around him, and he hits the ball with a spinning kick of immense power. The impact is so strong that the ball turns into a blur of light and flies toward the goal. The players are shocked, and the captain says the kick was so fast he could not even see the ball. With the goal completely open and no goalkeeper to defend it, everyone expected the ball to go in smoothly. But to everyone's surprise, the ball simply explodes in midair before even getting close to the goal. Shocked, one of the players wonders how a normal soccer ball can pop like that. Yuseong gives up on soccer and asks Rika what other sports clubs are nearby for him to try out. Rika finds the situation amusing and says it feels like they are clearing stages in a video game. The news spreads, and other students wonder if he is going to destroy all the sports teams. Curious to see what happens next, a crowd of students starts following them around the school. A ponytail girl watches the scene and wonders if Kim Yuseong has finally started making his move. At the basketball club, he shatters the backboard with a dunk, leaving everyone present completely shocked. Next, at the baseball club, he hits the ball with so much force that the batter screams in terror. In tennis, he blows a hole in the court, and the players wonder if that is some kind of special power. Rika then crosses off the list all the sports clubs our protagonist has already visited and destroyed. With a victorious smile, the girl celebrates that all the clubs were conquered with a single strike. Yuseong then asks her how many sports clubs are still left for them to visit at the school. With a mischievous smile, the young woman says she understands his curiosity and can answer his question. Adjusting her glasses, Rika prepares to give the answer using all the data she has collected up to that point. She explains that excluding the clubs not offering tryout sessions today, there are still 3 left to visit. The first is the track and field club, which helps build stamina and focus for its members. The second is the swimming club, which improves the cardio and full body strength of those who participate. And the third is the kendo club, which trains the discipline and mental fortitude of its practitioners. In conclusion, the girl states that there are still 3 sports clubs available for tryouts that day. She asks if the explanation was perfect, and the young man says thanks but mentions she did not need to go that far. The young woman then asks where they will go next and offers to guide him anywhere. Yuseong surprises her with a question about whether she has ever acted besides being a model, making the girl feel awkward. He explains that she seems to be good at acting, but that she can forget the question if she does not want to answer. Embarrassed, the young Rika says it is a bit awkward to talk about that subject with him there. She then admits with a flushed face that she has done something akin to acting in her hometown. The young man is shocked by the revelation and begins to get very bad ideas about the girl's past. He wonders if she has a dark past and if that would not break the genre rules of the story. But he doubts one of the heroines would have that kind of backstory and decides to find out more for his plan. The girl changes the subject and calls him to continue their club tour, reminding him there are still 3 left. From her reaction, our hero realizes it is better not to press the issue, as she would not answer. He then decides the next stop will be the kendo club, and the girl excitedly follows him to the location. A crowd of students is already gathering at the dojo doors, waiting for our protagonist's arrival. When he approaches, everyone shouts that he has arrived, and the news of his visit spreads rapidly. The students comment that he has already destroyed several clubs and that he looks even scarier in person. A girl from the journalism club wants to interview him but says she is too scared to get close. Rika then introduces herself as his manager and says any interviews must go through her first. Yuseong is surprised by the girl's attitude and realizes the situation is getting weirder and weirder. A ponytail girl watches from afar and thinks he is a delinquent destroying the clubs. But she states that his rampage ends there and introduces herself as Fuma Yukika, the kendo club captain. The crowd goes wild and praises the captain's courage for not backing down in front of our protagonist. Yuseong says he is only there out of interest in the club and asks her to explain how the tribe process works. With a serious look, the captain replies that she likes his attitude and that she will not go easy on him. She then sets the rule for the fight, saying the first to land a clean hit will be the grand winner. The young woman offers to be his opponent and invites him into the dojo to begin the match. One of the spectators gets excited and yells that the fight between the human weapon and the kendo captain is finally starting. The crowd cheers for the captain and feels sorry for the other clubs still waiting for Yuseong's visit. They believe our hero's reign of terror ends today, but he feels like they are treating him as a villain. Suddenly, the captain shouts for silence and imposes her authority over everyone present in the hallway. The spectators quiet down immediately, afraid of the reaction from the young and powerful kendo club leader. She declares the fight is 1-on-1 and that no one besides the 2 of them may enter the dojo during the bout. With a threatening glare, the young woman warns that if anyone insists on entering, she will fight them first. The students are frightened by the threat and decide to obey her order to avoid trouble. Rika comments that the captain is on a totally different level from the rest, and Yuseong agrees with her. Our protagonist thinks his new friend is right and that he needs to be very careful with her. He feels the pressure radiating from the captain and realizes she is not an easy opponent to defeat. Yuseong asks Rika to wait outside, and the girl agrees, wishing him good luck in the match. The captain asks if he is sure he does not need the bogu, but he refuses the protective gear for the fight. He doubts there is equipment his size, and the captain agrees, deciding to fight without armor too. The young man says that is fine, but warns he will not take responsibility if she gets hurt during the match. The young woman finds his remark funny and asks if he truly believes he can hurt her in the fight. Confidently, she states he will not even come close to touching her uniform and tells him to get ready. The 2 clash their bamboo swords in a shockwave of power that echoes throughout the wooden dojo. The captain praises his skills for street punk, but Yuseong remains unfazed by the comment. She goes on to say he is just a normal guy who worked out a bit, and that means nothing to her. The young woman attacks with a series of fast and precise strikes, but our hero manages to block them all. In a swift motion, she attempts an overhead strike, but he blocks it with his bamboo sword mid-air. With a malicious smile, she calls him a fool and says he cannot break a simple magic circle. The captain then declares the fight ends now and advances to deliver her final blow against him. With a quick movement, our hero spins his bamboo sword in the air and catches it with his hand. He then strikes down at the young woman, while she is still fallen on the floor of the large wooden dojo. The kendo captain feels an immense pressure coming from him and has no idea what it is. The young woman wonders if he spared her on purpose, or if he planned to make her lower her guard for counterattack. She admits she underestimated him and that if she drags the fight on any longer, she will be in real danger. Enveloped by a serpent aura, the captain decides to end it all with her next strike. Using her clan's secret art, she charges forward and shouts that this is the end for Kim Yuzong. But suddenly, an intense flash explodes in front of the young man, who stands still just watching. The flash grows and covers her entire vision as she feels the impact of her powerful attack. The captain cannot believe he managed to use her clan's secret technique, which had never failed. With a confident smile, the young woman says his name ends there and prepares to celebrate. However, a blinding light explodes on her chest, and the girl screams in pain from the impact. Confused, she wonders what just hit her, and if it was some kind of killing intent aura. But she quickly dismisses the idea because she felt nothing resembling an aura coming from her opponent. Looking at her bamboo sword, the young kendo club captain notices something strange. With her face full of shock and sweat, the girl begins to understand what really happened there. Yuseon then realizes that his muscle strengthening skill has leveled up to level 4. The next morning, the students talk about how Yuseong defeated all the sports clubs. A student says she heard the kendo club had it the worst and that the captain and Yukika went to the hospital. Other students comment that he did this to take over the school and be number 1 in the hierarchy. Our protagonist thinks the rumors have gone too far and that he did not expect to be so strong. At least Ryuji has not changed his behavior, perhaps because he cannot stray from the main storyline. Yuseong thinks everything is fine because Ryuji has his life and he has his own, and greets Rika. At that moment, a red-haired girl bursts into the classroom shouting Sakamoto Ryuji's name for him to come out. The students are confused, and one explains that she is Tojo Karen from the school's kendo club. Ryuji asks who she is and why she is looking for him so aggressively like that. The young woman then accuses him of hurting the club's freshmen because she visited them at the hospital yesterday. The young man says it is a misunderstanding, but she yells that he is denying it after hurting her friends. Suddenly, a brown-haired girl steps in front of Ryuji and asks the young woman to wait. The brown-haired girl states that the fault lies with the kendo club freshman and not Ryuji. The girl explains that the kendo students took her into an alley and Ryuji saved her from danger. She then asks the red-haired young woman if she still believes it is entirely Ryuji's fault. The brown-haired girl tells her to go back and get her kendo club freshman in line. With a serious look, she confirms that the blame falls on the first-year club members and not on Ryuji. Shocked by the revelation, the red-haired young woman yells that if that is the case, then everything changes completely. Pointing directly at Ryuji, the kendo girl screams for him to be her man without hesitation. She promises to make him the happiest guy in the world, and he is completely shocked by the declaration. Without understanding a thing, the girl who defended him freezes at the redhead's unexpected confession. The kendo girl then grabs Ryuji's arm while the other students watch the scene in silence. With a flushed face, Ryuji's defender screams that it cannot be, and that she cannot believe her eyes. Yuseon thinks a confession like that is brutal, and that the world of romantic comedies is cruel. Rika, on the other hand, gets super excited about the situation and squeals with happiness at the romantic scene. With shining eyes, the blonde says she found Tojo Karen's attitude very cool and brave. The other students in the room start gossiping and wonder who Sakamoto will choose now. One of them bets on Akushi, saying she is sweet and also has a very beautiful and attractive body. But another classmate disagrees and says the fierce girl who turns into a puppy for her beloved is the best. Sitting at his desk, our hero thinks people are still talking about the incident. He remembers the moment the red-haired young woman shouted for Ryuji to be her man in the middle of the room. The young man believes that if she had the courage to say that, it is because the timing was perfect for it. Rika then turns to Yuseong and calls him Ryu, leaving our hero a bit confused. With a sly smile, the blonde asks who he thinks Sakamoto will end up dating. The young man replies that he has no idea, and the girl complains, saying that is no fun at all. He then thinks that if things follow the original script, Ryuji will end up with his childhood friend. To our hero's surprise, the blonde young woman says she actually knows who he will end up with. Winking, Rika reveals in the game Scramble Love, Sakamoto dates the brave Tojo Karen. But she says she has a condition and needs to be Tojo's official love advisor. He asks if she is confident about that, and she replies of course, since she is the famous Kishimoto Rika. The young woman brags that people line up for her advice, but he highly doubts it. Annoyed, the blonde says the problem is she knows she is good at it, and he does not get the hype. With a cute face, the young woman asks him to pay a little more attention to her sometimes too. Stammering and not knowing what to say, our hero is left completely speechless by the girl's request. The next day, he sees Tojo Karen sitting alone in the classroom and wonders what she is doing there. A classmate greets him and asks what Tojo is doing in their class, mentioning he heard a rumor. He says the young woman wants to buy Sakamoto a meal as a formal apology. The friend whispers that a weekend meal is basically a date, and Yuseong agrees in shock. Then the classmate asks if our hero heard the other rumor, that she is the daughter of someone important. The rumor says Tojo Karen is actually the daughter of the boss of the famous Daosei Kai organization. Yuseong is stunned to learn that it is an underworld syndicate group that rules the Kanto region. Without much emotion, the young man says it is crazy, but his friend notes he does not look convinced. Yuseong explains that even if it is true, it changes nothing since she did not harm them. Impressed, the classmate says he feels like calling him boss, but the young man finds that weird. Suddenly, the protagonist remembers that they are already inside a manga world. Thinking about that, he concludes the story about the mob boss's daughter might be completely real here. Tojo insists Sakamoto set the date for dinner, while Yuseong thinks this is not his problem. Unexpectedly, Akushi appears and yells for the redhead to stop immediately, saying enough is enough. She says Ryuji is uncomfortable, but Tojo replies that the matter has nothing to do with her. Crying, the other students lament that only Sakamoto is popular, and Yuseong wonders if that is a good thing. Tojo's advances continued, and she even interrupted class to ask Sakamoto out to her dinner. With fury in her eyes, the girl even storms in the boys' locker room screaming that she finally found him. Running down the hallway, she shouts that he's going to eat with her this weekend, no matter what. Exhausted and almost crying, Sakamoto just yells her name and begs the young woman to stop. Changing scenes, Rika asks Yuseong what he is going to do during the Golden Week holiday. He replies nothing special, and that he will probably just help out at his family's restaurant. The blonde then invites him to her house if he has free time, surprising our hero. Rika remembers he likes manga and says they have a huge collection at her place. Excited, she tells him her dad collected enough to fill an entire bookstore. The protagonist says he will definitely call when he gets a chance, and she says she will talk to her dad. Yawning a little, the young woman seems to have a new idea and looks thoughtful for a moment. Yuseong comments that she is quite thin but eats more than she looks, and she says that is normal. The girl explains she does not gain weight easily and needs a good lunch, so she will not snack all afternoon. With a confident smile, the girl reveals that everything she eats goes straight to a certain part of her body. Completely shocked and sweating cold, Kim Yuseong wonders if she is talking about what he imagines. The blonde then calls him a creep, and the protagonist realizes it was all just a trap set by her. At that moment, a red-haired boy comes to their table and asks about someone named Tokyo. Rika sees this as her big chance while Yuseong panics, trying to make her stop. The red-haired boy then asks the girl if she is someone named Tojo Karen, and she looks confused. Rika asks who he is, and the young man introduces himself as Kishimoto Rika, making the situation awkward. She says she noticed he looked worried and offers to help, surprising the redhead. The boy is speechless and starts to stammer as the blonde approaches him with a curious look. He finally reveals that he heard Rika is very good at giving relationship advice. Rika explains it would be weird not to notice since he comes to their classroom every break just to see Sakamoto. Embarrassed, the boy called Ryuji covers her mouth and tells her to be quiet so no one hears. Covering her mouth, she says the timing is perfect because she also wanted to talk to him about it. The young woman reveals she also wanted some relationship advice for him, leaving the redhead speechless. Changing scenes, Yuseong walks alone at sunset thinking about how Kishimoto is having fun. He remembers her excitedly suggesting they all meet after school for a serious talk. Thoughtful, he notes something seems off because in the original story it was a 4-person romance. Our hero decides to stop overthinking and focuses on his main goal, which is working out at the gym. Arriving there, he sees everyone training hard and making a lot of noise, which leaves him quite confused. While wondering why the place is so loud, a familiar voice calls his name. Surprised, he turns around and recognizes the person, commenting that it is a huge coincidence running into her there. In his thoughts, the protagonist tries to recall the name of the girl in front of him, which is Fuma Yukika. Turning to her, the young man confirms out loud if she really is Fuma Yukika from his school. The girl explains that the club practice was not enough and that she did not know he trained there too. With an awkward smile, Yuseong notices that the other guys at the gym got excited by her presence. Looking at the girl, he thinks to himself that at the end of the day, she is actually very pretty. Yuseong comments he did not know she lived nearby, and Fuma replies she moved recently. The news of her move surprises him, but he soon thinks that it is simply perfect. Right after, the gym manager named Nakayama Yujiro approaches and asks Kim for a favor. The manager says since they are schoolmates, it would be best if Yuseong taught the newbie everything. Whispering in his ear, the manager says he thinks the girl came because she likes him and wishes him luck. Yuseong then tells Yukika to just watch since it is her first day and thinks the manager got it all wrong. In front of them, a massive gym weight rests on the rack waiting for the workout to begin. The older man says they will start light with 220 kilograms, leaving the girl amazed. He reassures her, saying that in 20 years on the job, he has never seen a monster like that young man. Firmly, the protagonist grips the metal bar as his leg muscles tense tightly. Without any difficulty, Kim Yuseong lifts the weight over his head, performing a perfect squat. The manager comments that it was too easy for him, and decides to increase the load to 270 kilograms. At the end of the exercise, Fuma watches in awe that he managed to do 5 full sets like that. Giving a thumbs up, the man says he warned her the kid was a monster, and she thinks it looks like self-torture. Yukika admits that is not a student's physique, and that he is the legendary anomaly from the rumors. A purple aura explodes around Yuseong, and the girl is sure he possesses the extreme yang physique. The purple energy continues to flow from the boy's body, while the name of his ability echoes in her mind. Ancient legends show that great heroes of history and myth possessed this special constitution. She then remembers the fight they had and understands that this power does not come just from working out. With a determined look, the young woman decides that for now, she needs to report what she found out to that person. Changing settings, a beautiful traditional Japanese house is shown in the sunlight of a sunny day. Right at the entrance, a man welcomes the young lady, who is actually the red-haired boy. Worried, Yuseong wonders if Tojo's family is really from the syndicate and why Rika does not seem surprised. He thinks that as someone from another world, he will never get used to these bizarre situations. Suddenly, a large man stares at the protagonist, completely shocked by the young man's size. Pointing at him, the man accuses him of being a spy and tells the young lady to step away because he is dangerous. The redhead gets annoyed and says it is rude because they came all the way there to help him. Another voice then apologizes for his men's behavior, admitting they crossed the line. Already wearing an apron, the protagonist says it is okay because he is used to being misunderstood. Yuseong thanks them for the invitation but says he will not be of much help, and Rika counters that his opinion is needed. The blonde encourages Miss Tujo to start cooking to win Sakamoto's heart. Flashing a peace sign, Rika declares herself the love expert and tells them to trust her. Feeling second-hand embarrassment, the hero wonders how she is not ashamed to talk about herself like that. Excited, the girl yells for everyone to start cooking, and they join together in a gesture of unity. With a proud look, the red-haired boy holds the finished lunchbox and exclaims that he is finally done. Thrilled, he shows off his first handmade lunchbox while the blonde claps and congratulates him. A little earlier, Yuseong warned him about the fire, but the boy thought high heat was better and burned everything. Tired, the protagonist thinks that even for a beginner the journey was hard, and this is what cooking in a rom-com is like. Rika says the smell of food made her hungry, and Kim Yuseong offers to whip up dinner quickly. With a determined look, our hero turns his head and tells her to leave everything to him. In an instant, huge flames shoot out of the pan as he cooks with incredible skill. Completely impressed, the blonde and the red-haired boy watch the scene, unable to believe their eyes. He then announces it is ready and serves a dish that looks delicious, leaving everyone amazed. The two start eating excitedly and say the food is simply incredible and delicious. The girl asks how long he's been cooking so well, and the young man thinks it was when he started packing his lunch. He remembers his mom waking up at dawn to prepare everything, and he felt bad seeing her tired. At first it was hard, but over time he got the hang of it, and Rika is moved by his story. The young man asks who makes her food, and Rika replies it is her mom, with lots of love, of course. Suddenly, the blonde remembers she has something for Tojo, and the boy gets confused, wondering what it is. She hands him a present and says she went to a cosmetics store and bought everything he will need. The young woman also hands him a note with a skincare routine, and he thanks her awkwardly. Next, Rika says they are going to buy clothes, and the red-haired boy wonders if he really needs that. She explains that his normal style is a little, and the boy tenses up waiting for the rest of the sentence. Without hesitating, the girl finishes by saying his style looks like an old man's, shocking him. Yuseong thinks Rika is very blunt, and Tojo promises to work hard on makeup to get the date. Happy with his spirit, the blonde says she will do his makeup now and asks Yuseong to wait there. The young man asks if he should wait alone, and she says of course, because watching the transformation is a crime. Excited, the girl then pulls the embarrassed boy into another room, while the protagonist stays behind. Alone, our hero is confused because she had just said a man's opinion was important. Already nighttime, our hero walks down a busy street and thinks the day was actually quite fun. Alongside Rika, he truly hopes Tojo succeeds on her date with Sakamoto. He then asks if they can stop at a convenience store to buy a manga magazine. Rika asks if he buys it every week and mentions her dad, says there are no bad people among those who love manga. He asks if she buys it too, and the girl says yes, wanting to know if that makes her a good person. Thoughtful, he replies yes and that she is definitely a good person, leaving the young woman very surprised. He explains that in his opinion, anyone who works so hard for someone else like she did for Tojo is a good person. Hearing that, the girl's face turns red and she becomes completely flustered by the unexpected compliment. Embarrassed, she screams that it is getting late and runs out of the store saying she is going to pay and head out first. Alone, Yuseong looks thoughtful and wonders if Rika ran off like that because of a stomach chatch. The next day, the scene shows the facade of the character's school on a sunny, peaceful morning. In the hallways, students whisper and look surprised at a figure walking toward them. A beautiful red-haired girl with a new hairstyle appears, and everyone comments on how pretty she is. Seeing that the girl is heading to room 2B, one of the students wonders if she is who he thinks she is. In a swift firm motion, the young woman places a sealed letter on one of the students' desks. It is Tojo, who now goes by Karen, delivering a challenge letter to Sakamoto stating they will go out together. Totally confused, the young man wonders who that girl is, and she tells him to stop staring at her. The scene changes, showing the famous and bustling city of Shibuya with its modern buildings and shops. Walking together, Rika praises Karen's boldness at school, and the redhead asks to be called by her name. With a smile, the blonde agrees and asks to be called Rika too, forming a bond between them. Inside the store, the protagonist feels like he is in a completely new world in the women's clothing section. A flashback shows that Karen asked for help choosing an outfit, and Rika forced him to join the team. Looking at a window display, Rika points to a dress and exclaims that the clothing set is very cute. With that, she pulls Karen by the hand and leads her into the store so she can try on the pieces. The red-haired girl is overwhelmed by all the clothing options everyone starts handing her. Rika then shoves a dress at her friend and orders her to go to the fitting room to change immediately. Karen complains that cute styles do not suit her, but the blonde says she will intervene and asks Yuseong to wait. Inside the fitting room, the young woman approaches Karen and tells her to hold still because she will handle everything. Hearing the noises, Yuseong wonders what on earth they're doing in there inside the fitting room. With her hands clasped, the red-haired girl looks down, feeling shy about her unexpected new look. Coming out of the fitting room, she complains the dress skirt is too short while Rika watches proudly. The blonde takes her to Yuseong to get his opinion, and the young man praises her, saying the outfit looks great on her. Our hero thinks to himself that clothes really make the person and that Karen has changed a lot. Changing scenes, a large traditional Japanese mansion is shown as Tojo Karen's home. In a dark room, a bespectacled red-haired man sits at the table holding a dagger. In an imposing image, the 6th president of the Dongsung-ho, the intimidating Tojo Naoto, is introduced. A sign reveals that he is known as Naoto the Ruthless, and he thinks about his daughter Karen. Tapping the dagger on the table, he says it finally seems his daughter has found a boy she likes. His men are shocked and wonder who would dare approach the young lady like that. With a serious look, he says he will not hand his daughter over to just anyone and calls for a man named Sento. Naoto asks what the boy's name was and questions if it was Sakamoto, and his subordinate confirms the info. The man then reveals the boy's full name is Sakamoto Ryuji, and he attends the same academy. He continues his report saying the young lady wanted to go to a beauty salon, and he personally escorted her. Showing his phone, he reveals several purchases at clothing stores popped up on her card statement. Based on this, he concludes the young woman is planning a date with Sakamoto over the weekend. Filled with rage, the president screams Sakamoto's name while his men try to calm him down. Still furious, he grinds his teeth and orders everyone who is free on the weekend to gather. Naoto then reveals the mission is to follow Karen's date and ensure the boy tries nothing funny. All the men shout in unison saying yes, and the president and 8 executives prepare for the mission. Changing scenes, a diner's sign is shown in a brightly lit and well-organized setting. Rika sits at a table with snacks, looking completely exhausted after a day of shopping. Even saying she has no strength left to chew, she eats non-stop, and Yuseong notes she seems fine. Karen thanks Rika for everything, and the blonde replies that is what true friends are for. The red-haired young woman says Rika has always been there to help her, and that she had a lot of fun shopping. Karen asks if 1 burger is enough for Yuseong, but he says he is fine because he prefers rice. She insists he order more if he wants because it is the least she can do after all the help. Eating his snack, he thinks he used to view her as a delinquent, but now sees her as someone caring. Concluding that you should not judge by appearances, Karen asks why he is staring at her. She gets awkward at his joke, and Rika changes the subject, asking about the date's itinerary. The redhead says yes and that she planned to go to a cafe, then the movies, and finally out for dinner. With a sudden yell, the blonde calls her way too naive, leaving the girl completely confused. Rika explains she cannot win someone over doing the same thing everyone does and suggests a new place. Showing her phone, she reveals a photo of an aquarium, and Karen is surprised by the unexpected suggestion. Excited, Rika describes the glowing waves, the fish, and corals dancing in a peaceful setting. She finishes by saying the lighting is perfect for talking and deepening feelings. Rika dubs herself a romance expert, and Karen decides to trust her to go to the aquarium. Once everything is settled, they say goodbye to Karen, wishing her good luck on her date the next day. The red-haired girl thanks them and tells them to get home safely while waving. With smiles on their faces, our protagonist and his friend wave goodbye to Karen. Rika then asks the young man what he is doing tomorrow, and the boy replies he is reading manga at home. Excitedly, the girl invites him to follow Karen, and Yuseong wonders if he doesn't have a right to his weekend. She says they are comrades and need to ensure Karen's happiness, and the tired hero ends up agreeing. With a high five, the young woman celebrates forming their duo and calls him her great partner. Changing scenes, a child points at a man's weird hair, and the mother scolds her. The man is Karen's dad, observing the spot where his daughter will have her first romantic date. At that moment, Sakamoto arrives, apologizing for being late and asking if she waited long. With a smile, the girl says she just got there, and that he does not need to worry about it. The blonde boy then compliments her outfit, saying it looks great, and the young woman's heart races. Embarrassed, she thanks him, and the two start walking down the street together a bit awkwardly. The girl suggests grabbing some tea to plan their day, and Sakamoto agrees with the idea right away. She tells him to follow her lead today, and the boy offers to carry her bag for her. Hiding, Yuseong and Rika watch the scene and comment that the disguises and the vibe are perfect. The blonde then decides to meet up with them and runs off, leaving our protagonist behind. The couple walks toward a famous cafe, and the young woman comments the place looks pretty cool. From afar, Karen's dad watches the scene and grinds his teeth in anger at that ordinary boy. Furious, he yells that the boy dared to leave his daughter waiting on the street for 5 long minutes. One of his men warns him people are looking, and the boss does not understand because their disguises are perfect. The man explains that 9 people together draw attention and suggests they split into pairs. The boss agrees with the plan and orders everyone to move in pairs to follow the couple discreetly. The scene shows the inside of a cafe with pleasant lighting and a very modern vibe. At a table, a huge delicious strawberry parfait is served looking amazing. Yuseong asks Rika if she will be able to eat all that, reminding her they should be following the couple. With a smile, the girl asks if he cannot even finish a whole parfait, and he is left confused. Sitting at another table, the protagonist feels there is something weird about that busy place. He notices the cafe is too crowded, especially with very weird, suspicious-looking guys. With a serious look, the protagonist thinks everyone there is suspicious and tied to Tojo. He focuses his gaze on a red-haired man wearing sunglasses who looks the weirdest of all. Yuseong notes that despite the weird wig, the man looks a lot like Tojo herself. Back at the table, Sakamoto excitedly mentions the city aquarium also has dolphins. Karen agrees and they decide to see the dolphins first before exploring the rest of the place. With a radiant smile on her face, the girl thinks to herself that today is going to be very fun. Watching the scene, Yuseong thinks he is not so sure and that her date is going to be very complicated. The scene changes, showing the Shibuya station sign as an announcement says the train is departing. Amidst the crowd, the doors start closing and Yuseong holds Rika to protect her from the pushing and shoving. People keep pushing and the girl tells them to stop because she is being crushed in the crowd. Thinking out loud, she complains she did not know the subway would be so packed at that time of day. Rika then realizes she is very close to the young man and feels awkward about the unexpected situation. He says it is a bit crowded but they will arrive soon and asks her to hold on just a little longer. When the doors open, a crowd of people invades the car, pushing everyone inside. Worried about losing sight of her in the chaos, the protagonist holds her hand tightly. Pulling her by the hand, he clears a path through the crowd and guides her safely off the train. Once on the platform, the two breathe a sigh of relief for managing to get out of the packed car. The young woman asks him to let go of her hand, and the young man apologizes awkwardly for the situation. He slowly lets go of her hand while a romantic vibe begins to build between them. With her heart racing, Rika whispers to herself that next time he should be gentler. Without understanding what she meant, the young man simply nods and wonders about a next time. When they look at the street, they realize they missed the light, and the couple has already crossed the road. Yuseong says since their destination is the aquarium, they should just go straight there and meet them. Arriving at the entrance, they face a crowd, and the protagonist complains about the number of people. In the distance, one of the men in black complains they should have driven to avoid the mess. Yuseong recognizes the men he saw at Tojo's mansion and understands what is happening there. Worried, he thinks he needs to be careful not to be recognized by them in the crowd. One of the men points at Yuseong and calls him a suspect, but his boss recognizes him as the young lady's friend. He remembers the two visited the mansion days ago to help the young lady prepare for the date. The boss then figures they are there out of concern for their friend and not with bad intentions. Since they lost sight of the young lady, they decide the best option is to follow her friends. With a determined expression, the group's boss gives the order for everyone to start moving. In front of the aquarium, Karen is amazed by the place, and Sakamoto celebrates that they finally made it. Excited, the young man invites her in, and the girl holds onto his arm with a smile of happiness. Suddenly, two suspicious-looking boys turn around, and one of them looks surprised by something. The red-haired young man comments to his friend that the guy who just walked in looks like Sakamoto. His friend agrees, and he complains the guy kicked them out of the kendo club and is now on a date. With a hateful look, the young man swears that this time he is really going to end Sakamoto's life. Inside the aquarium, the couple walks while Yuseong and Rika follow closely to observe. The dim lighting makes it hard to see, but they still manage to spot the happy couple. With an attentive gaze, our protagonist realizes there is one thing he can state for sure. Their dates seem to be going much better than he had initially imagined. Seeing the couple's happiness, Yuseong and Rika wonder if they really need to keep hanging around. The scene shifts to Minamibukuro Park, where people are enjoying a sunny, peaceful day. On a picnic blanket, a variety of kimbap and inari sushi is displayed, looking incredible. Yuseong reveals he worked hard and that if you are going to tail someone, you need to eat well for energy. Rika smiles in agreement and excitedly starts eating one of the rice balls he made. From afar, they hear the couple talking about how fun the aquarium was and full of pretty fish. Suddenly, Karen gets very nervous and suggests they eat the lunch she packed herself. Rika comments her friend is nervous because it is her first time showing her cooking to someone she likes. She then remembers Karen asked for advice and practiced day and night for 3 straight days. Sakamoto opens the lunchbox and is impressed by the food, asking if she made it all by herself. She says she made plenty and he can eat all he wants, and the boy starts with the rice balls. With an anxious look, the girl watches as he takes the first bite of the rice ball. To her surprise, he loves it and says it is very good, making the red-haired young woman very happy. Thrilled by the compliment, she grabs another item from the lunchbox and offers it for him to try next. Chopsticks in hand, the girl shows a fierce determination in her eyes as she watches his reaction. After chewing, the boy pauses, leaving her tense and anxious for his answer. He then gives a thumbs up and says that one is delicious too, and the girl is relieved. From afar, Yuseong offers food to Rika and tells her to open her mouth so he can feed her. Gently, the blonde uses the chopsticks to feed the redhead, who chews the food blushing hard. Smiling kindly, the young man says he is satisfied for now with what he has already eaten. Extremely embarrassed, the girl covers her face with her hands, mentally agreeing with the situation. Watching from a distance, the duo notices the good vibe, but Yuseong finds it very weird that everything is going so well. With a dreamy look, the blonde mentions she would like to go on a date like that someday. Amazed by the revelation, the protagonist questions why she calls herself a grandmaster of love. Giggling, the girl confesses she has never dated and learned everything just by reading comic books. Sighing in exhaustion, the young man starts packing things up to keep following the couple. Annoyed by the lack of attention, the young woman waves her arms demanding her partner listen to her. Walking side by side, the couple enjoys the park's tranquility on a sunny afternoon. Hiding behind a tree, the spies think the perfect moment for a confession has arrived. Suddenly, a loud noise startles the boy, who quickly looks back trying to understand it all. Looking further ahead, they notice 2 weird guys blocking the couple's path. Staring at the blonde, the bruised duo of troublemakers claims they searched everywhere for him. Mocking the situation, the bullies accuse the young man of always stealing the girls they are interested in. Worried, the blonde considers calling the cops, but the protagonist warns the guards would take too long. Stepping in front of the redhead, the blonde gets furious at the guy's audacity to bother them again. Watching everything seriously, our hero recognizes the brawlers as the freshman kicked out of the kendo club. At that, he recalls a story about how the blonde saved another student from the clutches of those exact bullies. Outraged, the troublemakers blame the couple for their expulsion from the club and losing privileges there. Overcome with extreme anger, the red-haired girl insults the 2 bruised boys. Pointing her finger in their faces, the young woman states that their ridiculous behavior was the real reason for the expulsion. Surprised by the scolding, the guy in the beanie finally recognizes the senior behind all that makeup. Giving an ironic laugh, the guy in the neck brace mocks the delicate, feminine look she adopted. Staring at the rivals furiously, the blonde keeps protecting his friend while hearing the worst insults. Furious at the disgusting insults aimed at her, the young man demands the 2 shut their mouths right away. Slowly, a giant man steps behind the duo, proving the troublemakers brought backup. Very relieved by the reinforcements' arrival, the bullies ask their older brother for help. With an evil smile, the muscular blonde man stares at the couple, wanting to avenge his boys. Showing an intimidating posture, the big guy listens to his goons praise his dark fighting past. Putting the redhead behind him, the blonde tells her to run because he is the target, but the girl refuses to leave him alone. Smiling sadistically, the big guy warns the boy to stop playing around right now and face reality. Suddenly, a huge, strong hand violently grabs the student's wrist, leaving him completely surprised. Pulling the girl close, the bully suggests she forget her loser boyfriend and go have fun with him instead. Desperate, the young man screams his friend's name while the man tells him he is in the way. Without mercy, the big guy lands a hard punch to the blonde's stomach, demanding he get out of there once and for all. Watching from afar, our hero gets furious at the scene and asks his partner to wait right there. Held by the giant thug, the redhead screams her beloved's name in pure terror, fearing for his safety. Followed on the ground, the student caws in pain while the big guy laughs and warns he is taking his girlfriend away. Promising to give the girl lots of love, the bully suddenly feels a dark, heavy presence right behind him. Staring at the giant with glowing purple eyes, the protagonist steps close, leaving the thug very confused by the intrusion. Quickly, the hooded boy grabs the man's wrist with extreme force, making him scream in pain and let the girl go. Throwing the guy back easily, the hero scares the other troublemakers who watch the scene in shock. Radiating an intimidating aura, the young man warns he will not repeat himself for him to get his dirty hands off his friend. Confused and in pain, the man wonders where the boy came from while his allies scream and run to help him. Taken over by fury, the bully insults the boy for the surprise attack and challenges him to a fair fight with no tricks. Keeping a firm stance, our protagonist surprises a mysterious man watching from afar trying to understand. Analyzing the situation, the unknown leader concludes the boy is just a strong civilian who knows how to fight a little. Walking calmly, the red-haired boss in sunglasses listens to his goon ask if they are not going to interfere. Shortly before that, the same group of suited men was looking for some runaway targets around the park very tensely. Taking off his glasses, the leader says the youths were having lunch nearby but ended up vanishing in the blink of an eye. Returning to the present time, the scene shows again the exact moment the giant with a ponytail grabbed the girl. Annoyed by the aggressor's audacity, the red-haired boss charges forward furious, wondering who gave permission to touch her. Anxious to act, one of the goons asks if they should grab their weapons to fight, but the leader tells everyone to wait. Watching our hero in the middle of the mess, the suited man states they do not need to meddle in a kid's fight. Asking his allies to pay close attention, the boss points out the sinister purple aura radiating from the hooded student. Sweating cold uncontrollably, the grown man notices a suffocating pressure taking over that whole environment. Trembling with fear and with wide eyes, the redhead touches his own face, certain he has felt that power level before. In his mind, he visualizes a Russian ruffian boss surrounded by chains, possessing a devastating and lethal presence. Recalling a casual encounter with the monstrous criminal in the past, the leader guarantees the feeling that day was identical. Shaking in terror, the redhead sees an overwhelming monster that awakens pure fear. Intrigued, the mob leader finds it fascinating to see this exact dark underworld aura coming from young Kim Yuseong. Resolute, the protagonist warns that the original script and the rule of staying in line no longer matter. Stepping firmly toward the enemy, the young man guarantees that from now on he is just going to take out the trash in front of him. From a distance, we see our hero tell the redhead to grab the injured blonde and flee, leaving the fight to him. Very worried, the girl tries to argue, stating she usually does not lose to guys like that. Annoyed by the lack of attention, the bully insults the boy and demands not to be ignored in the middle of a brawl. Charging full force, the big guy throws a fast punch, but the student blocks the attack with total ease and coldness. Celebrating loudly, the duo of goons praises their leader's incredible speed, thinking victory was clear. Smiling confidently, the bully mocks, asking if the hero can even dodge his super heavy blows. Shocked, the enemy notices the young man does not even blink after taking the hits and wonders what kind of endurance that was. Grumbling in anger, the blonde troublemaker preps an extremely fierce surprise attack trying to take down the rival. Landing a clean hit to the hooded boy's face, the guy displays all his absurd strength in a very brutal strike. Watching everything while hiding, the blonde with glasses brings her hands to her face terrified, fearing for her dear friend's life. Desperate at the violent scene, the redhead screams the protagonist's full name, hoping he is okay and in one piece. Backing away scared, the bully shudders noticing the student is still standing, radiating a very macabre aura. Staring at the enemy with a dark look, our hero coldly declares that from this moment on, it is pure self-defense. Sweating cold, the aggressor barely processes the situation, before seeing a very fast fist coming his way suddenly. Throwing a very powerful punch, the young man hits the guy square in the face, sending his body flying from the brute impact. Suffering devastating damage, the bully hears the boy explain that self-defense usually comes down to a single strike. Crashing heavily onto the ground, the big guy is totally defeated while his goons scream for him, completely terrified. Trembling, the accomplices try to wake the leader while Yuseong says he had to bet it all on just one simple punch. Staring at the hero in absolute terror, the three cowards hear him comment that the fight ended up being quite disappointing. Showing a slightly bruised face, the protagonist questions if they know the consequences of laying hands on his friends. Crying on the ground, the injured boy threatens to use his father's influence with the police, but the young man mocks this pathetic attitude. Holding the crybaby's head firmly, our hero warns he is going to fix those bad brains once and for all. Squeezing the troublemaker's skull mercilessly, the young man makes him bawl in pain, while the coward begs for forgiveness, thinking he would die. Tossing the aggressor's body onto the grass, the student discards the cowardly rival like trash without showing any pity. Completely terrified, the goons bow before the victor, begging him to spare their miserable lives. Turning his back, the hero tells the group to get out of there and forbids them from showing their faces near the loving couple again. With his face bloody, the boy runs toward his partner and tells her to run away quickly so she does not get hurt. Stopping in front of the scared blonde, the hooded young man warns her again to run while touching his head. Furious at his careless attitude, the blonde girl demands they go to the pharmacy to buy bandages immediately. Quite surprised, the student agrees to go, thinking about how this was the first time he had seen his friend so angry like that. Changing scenes, our spies watch from afar as the loving couple sits quietly on a park bench. Sensing a tense vibe between the two lovebirds, the friends decide to hide behind a tree to give them more privacy. With a very red face, the redhead asks the blonde for forgiveness, stating he only ended up getting hurt because of her. Smiling kindly, the boy reassures her it was his fault and points out those bullies had been looking for him from the start. Staring at the ground shyly, the red-haired girl decides to break the silence and calls her partner's name. Staring deeply into her beloved's eyes, the young woman builds up the courage and confesses all her feelings, saying she likes him very much. Completely shocked by the sudden grand declaration, the student widens his eyes while waiting for the rest of what she has to say. Under the shade of the park trees, the brave girl asks the blonde to agree to date her from that day forward. Begging for a chance, the redhead reaffirms her deep desire to be in a romantic relationship by the young man's side. With a very sad look, the young man lowers his head and looks away as he processes his friend's entire declaration of love. Apologizing for the painful situation, the student says that unfortunately, he will not be able to give the answer she wanted so much. Desperate, the girl questions the reason for the rejection, while he explains he has his own problems to solve. Trying to explain better, the blonde reveals that when he was little, he promised to marry a very special little girl. Maintaining a very serious expression, the young man confesses he needs to wait until he manages to find that exact girl again. Very determined to keep his old promise, the boy states he has no plans to date anyone right now. Crushed by the sad revelation, the little redhead holds back tears as she watches the great love of her life slip through her fingers. Asked about the past, the blonde confesses he is not sure what he feels now, but remembers crying a lot when they said goodbye. Totally defeated, the young woman in the black dress concludes that mysterious little girl from the past had been his first love. Quickly getting up from the bench, the redhead says she understands the decision and promises to peacefully let go of her feelings. Flashing a beautiful smile to hide her sadness, the student says goodbye and thanks him for that fun date they had. Waving back with a lot of affection, the blonde troublemaker agrees with his friend and watches her slowly walk away. Without looking back, the rejected girl starts running through the park, wanting to escape that heavy mood fast. Peeking from afar, the duo is shocked by the tragic ending, and our hooded hero tells the blonde to go home. Staring in the void with a melancholic look, the boy says goodbye to his friend, promising to meet her at school next week. Confused by her buddy's solitary attitude, the girl with glasses places her hands on her hips, getting very worried. Running toward the sunset, the mysterious protagonist leaves his partner thinking about why he is so sad. Staring at the ground in great sorrow, the redhead notices a foot wearing a dark sneaker quietly approaching her. Showing a lot of concern in his eyes, the protagonist asks if his red-haired partner is doing okay. Unable to hold back her emotions, the girl begins to shed many crystal-clear tears down her shaken face. Wiping her eyes, the young woman denies being okay as her friend sighs and offers a tissue to help her. Gently, the boy dries her face, asking her to take a deep breath and calm down amidst all the crying. Rubbing her nose, the student finds the situation embarrassing, but the hero assures her that among friends, this is very normal. Staring at nothing with a blank expression, the rejected girl repeats the word, friends, in a very reflective way. Surprising the hero, the little redhead reveals she already knew about his and the blonde is spying, making the boy sweat cold. Very tense over the discovery, the boy listens to his friend judge his lack of trust in her during the date. Waving his hands desperately, the student tries to explain, claiming the love instructors needed to supervise everything. Looking very downcast, the young woman apologizes for the failure and laments not being able to win back the blonde's heart. Imagining her beloved with another girl, she vents that from the start there was never any room to fit into his life. Clutching her chest tightly, the student reveals the pain of rejection is so intense she feels she is going to lose her mind. With a shaky voice, the friend swears she has never felt anything so terrible in her whole life while the boy listens quietly. Closing her eyes in great pain, the girl screams in tears, stating she truly loved that troublemaker. Watching the melancholic scene, the protagonist reflects that at first, he considered the friend just another extra in the story. Remembering another smiling blonde classmate, the boy mentally confesses he used to just fake being nice to everyone. In his mind, he kept a dividing line, believing those people were just comic book characters. Seeing the redhead's deep suffering, our hero wonders if he could really keep labeling her that way. Suddenly, the dark-haired boy stands up and tells his friend to do the same, leaving her quite confused. Pointing his finger at his partner, the young man jokes someone might call the cops if she kept lying there crying. Breaking the super heavy mood, the rejected student cannot handle the absurd joke and ends up giving a soft giggle. Drying her tears, the young woman mocks his choice of words as the young man smiles, stating that laughing suits her better. Quickly, the hero starts taking off his blue jacket, ordering his companion to follow him to a new destination. Handing the clothing to his confused friend, the student tells her to put the piece on without giving many initial explanations. Covering the redhead's head with the hood, the boy says they are going to karaoke just like that, leaving her stunned. Adjusting the fabric affectionately, the young man tells her she will scream until she forces all the bad luck out of her heart. Starting to walk ahead, our protagonist hears his friend call him, with the giant piece of clothing covering her whole body. Still shocked by the sudden situation, the girl finds her partner's completely random way of acting funny. Pulling his friend's hand so they can run together, the boy reflects that all those people are actually exactly like him. Smiling genuinely, the redhead shows she is happy while the hero realizes they are normal people with emotions. Moved, the red-haired mobster praises the boy, stating he is very happy the young woman has such an amazing friend by her side. Watching the duo walk away, the adult confesses that in a hard, violent world like that, good kids like him are rare. Smiling softly in his sunglasses, the man suggests the hooded student might really be someone special. Deep in thought, the group leader deeply hopes their paths cross again on some future day. Singing excitedly at karaoke, the girl demands the boy sing louder while he holds a tambourine, totally exhausted. Announcing his partner's turn, the student celebrates, but the hooded young man gets a pale expression of pure exhaustion. Changing scenes, a blonde classmate enters our hero's bedroom and is impressed to see several workout machines. Curious, the visitor asks if all guys have that much weight in their room, but the young man awkwardly says no. Walking around the room, the student notices some large dumbbells lying there on the wooden floor. Using a lot of strength, the blonde tries to lift one of the weights, failing and asking if humans could actually lift that. Sweating cold, the young man thinks it is obvious she could not lift a heavy item like that and wonders how the girl ended up there. Flashing back to the past, the young man walks quietly down the street next to his blonde partner right after normal class ends. Just then, a very loud noise echoes from the girl's stomach, giving away the extreme hunger she felt right then. Noticing the situation, our protagonist asks if his partner is hungry, making her completely embarrassed. Suggesting a visit to his family's restaurant, the student surprises the blonde, who finally remembers their local business. Flashing a gentle smile, the hero confirms the shop's existence and ensures a free meal would be no problem at all. Quickly, the scene cuts to the simple, quiet storefront of the restaurant owned by our protagonist's beloved parents. Eating desperately, the blonde drinks soda while the boy watches his friend devour everything, impressed and sweating. Finishing the whole can, the young woman lets out a huge sigh of pure satisfaction and flashes a very happy smile. Giving a thumbs up, the blonde praises his mom's food, and the mom blushes, stating it is a huge pleasure seeing a young lady eat well. Offering more portions, the older woman is very friendly while the two teenagers keep enjoying the treats. Drinking water, our hero notes his mom's affectionate look toward his friend and concludes the lady liked the little blonde a lot. Suddenly, the visitor slaps the boy's back, telling him to leave, making the student spit out all his drink. Coughing a lot from the sudden scare, the boy tries to understand the reason for the rush and where they were going so fast. Winking one eye, the student smiles confidently, assuring the obvious destination would be a grand visit to his bedroom. Back in the present, the protagonist holds a tray with juice, thinking he was stupid to expect anything normal from her. Opening the room door, the young man announces the cold drinks but lets out a gasp of shock when he sees his friend busy. Sitting in the chair, the girl shows off a romance manga and questions his reading taste, making the young man very awkward. Desperate about the situation, the hero tries to justify in his thoughts that those comic books were only used for reference. Laughing at the situation, the girl says it is a joke and claims she knows the boy prefers action comics. Looking at the books, the blonde points to the cover of the Golden Samurai, wanting to know if he likes that series. Holding the work, the young man smiles, confirming it is his favorite story, and the student cheers, saying she loves it too. Admiring the details, the little blonde realizes they are the rare first editions, while he says he always rereads them. Staring at the comic with affection, the young man praises the fantastic art and the impactful ending, calling the series a masterpiece. With her green eyes shining with immense joy, the student listens to all her friends' excitement about the famous comic. Explaining the details, the boy highly praises the story and confesses he has never met anyone who loved it all too. Letting out a very cute laugh, the light-haired young woman ensures her dad will be extremely happy with all that. Completely shocked, the hero asks for explanations, and the blonde reveals with a smile that her dad is the creator of the Golden Samurai. Widening his eyes a lot, the student mentally screams the legendary author's name, unable to believe his friend was his daughter. Putting the pieces together, the boy starts sweating cold as he notices the young woman's common last name and hair make total sense now. Thinking about the artist's British wife, the young man feels dumb for not noticing such an old cliché right in front of him. Having an internal meltdown, our protagonist panics remembering he was at the living legend's house over the holiday. Grabbing his partner's shoulders, the crazed fan begs the famous author for an autograph, and she accepts the request right away. Crying out of pure emotion, the boy celebrates the big win like a true fan, while his friend promises to introduce the artist. Returning to normal, the dark-haired boy brings up a question, and the visitor raises her arms ready to answer. With his hands clenched, he asks why that comic is her big favorite, since her dad has other hits. Thoughtful, the girl confesses she likes the other works, but says that story won her heart for no special reason. Showing a very sweet smile, the little blonde starts talking about the manga's 5th volume, remembering a striking detail. Illustrating the epic scene, the panel shows the main samurai who always chooses to put his dear friends first. Remembering the past, the young woman visualizes our furious hero demanding the thugs get their dirty hands off his friend. Having another memory, the blonde sees the boy smiling very gently, proving he is someone strong and kind at the same time. Hugging the book very affectionately, the student closes her eyes in happiness, revealing the character reminded her a lot of her friend. Completely shifting focus, the image shows the school's grand, sunny facade during the busy morning of the next day. Walking down the indoor hallways, the boy stops near the student council room and asks about the long weekend. Staring at the young man very seriously, the student with long dark hair confirms the request, reminding him he promised to help her. Sweating cold, our protagonist remembers a scary teacher while the girl explains about an exchange program. Listening closely, the young man understands his classmate wanted his help to pick out a good welcome gift. Quite excited by her classmate's quick understanding, the student flashes a huge smile and points her finger, confirming exactly that. Sighing tiredly, the young man accepts the invitation and suggests the 29th of the month, thinking he did not have much choice in it all. Celebrating with a red fan, the girl promises not to forgive him if he breaks the promise, and the boy thinks it is all very fast. Dismissed back to the classroom, the student walks away, finding his classmate's sudden good mood a very bizarre thing. Sighing from exhaustion due to his obligations, the young man decides to ask his blonde friend to postpone their date to the 30th. Entering the classroom, the boy is approached by a friend who curiously asks if he has heard the news. Trying to remember the names, the classmate mentions the famous troublemaker freshman who got kicked out of the sword club. Giggling, the student mentions the rumor about the duo requesting a transfer at the same time and suspects a hidden motive. Smiling subtly at the situation, our hero agrees and guesses they must have secrets they cannot tell. Sitting at his desk with a book, the young man thinks they got what they deserved since the adorable couple would not suffer any more harassment. Illuminated by soft lighting, the new English teacher holds the students accountable because of Monday's tardiness. Smiling behind her desk, the beautiful light-haired instructor directs the class to open their subject books quickly. Looking at the erased green chalkboard, the students listen to the educator ask a comparative question about two prices. Nudging his blonde friend's shoulders, our hero whispers that the apple on the left was cheaper than the banana. Holding the school materials, the friendly young woman decides to pick a student using the date of the 24th as a reference. Very tense, the boy with that exact list number sweats cold, fearing he will have to answer something very complex. Suddenly, the order shifts to the student sitting right behind him, leaving the former target relieved and the hooded one in pure panic. Reading the text flawlessly, the hero translates the lines of an English tourist asking for strong recommendations for places in the country. Sweating slightly on her face, the teacher stutters a bit and asks the student to answer the question she just formulated. Thoughtful with a hand on his chin, the young man suggests a tourist region very popular among various foreign visitors. Shaking with a completely blank stare, the educator stares at the student while he wonders why she has such a cold attitude. Clapping her hands, the young woman praises the perfection of that answer, making everyone applaud a very embarrassed protagonist. Uncomfortable with the situation, the boy sits down and concludes that the teaching professionals seem to hate asking that exact question. Without looking away, the teacher keeps staring at the boy with pure terror and sweating cold uncontrollably. Waking up from her trance, the instructor shakes her head clumsily and tries to go back to explaining the class material. Staring at the scene with a very sharp and focused look, the boy has his initial intuition confirmed with total success. Writing on the board with slightly trembling hands, the educator proves to our protagonist that she was terrified of him there. Walking through the building's hallways, the big student scares his classmates, who recall the fake mob rumors. Passing by shocked students, the young man admits in his mind that he has never seen people run away like that before. Standing at the door of the teacher's lounge, the hero decides to act as normal as possible to avoid bigger misunderstandings. Looking at the flawless student's excellent reports, the scared teacher swears all those violent details must be lies. Making up paranoid thoughts in her head, the woman gets dizzy, thinking that mob member planned to end her at any moment. Completely terrified, the teacher stares into the void with a dark shadow covering her tense face. Giving an exaggerated bow, our hero smiles bizarrely while saying good afternoon and stating his full name. Very scared, the instructor tells him to come in, promising she is not nervous, while the boy notices the clear terror in her. Crying mentally, the educator sees a huge danger in the student, while the young man notes the deep terror in her eyes. Keeping calm, the protagonist announces he came for career counseling, making the woman let out a soft sigh. Forcing a very gentle smile, the light-haired instructor politely asks him to sit down first. Sitting across from the desk, the student listens to the counselor ask about the plans he has for his future. Being honest, the young man confesses he does not know yet, and the woman suggests he take over the family business, leaving him confused. Having crazy thoughts, the adult imagines the young man leading a criminal gang while our hero calls out to the lady. Sweating cold, the counselor asks his parents' profession, and the student tells her about the small restaurant they own. Processing the simple answer, the instructor repeats the restaurant information while the young man asks if there is any mistake. Flashing a beautiful smile, the educator expresses a desire to visit the place, and our hero sighs in relief for clearing up the mistake. Changing the course of the conversation, the woman asks about the student's favorite subject, and he replies he prefers math and science. Suggesting the STEM field, the teacher hears the boy disagree, as he thinks it is dumb to choose a job just because you have a talent. Staring at the boy with wide eyes, the brown-haired woman is quite surprised by the maturity of the answer. Keeping a very serious posture, the protagonist ensures he wants to forge his own path and only do what he wants to do. Agreeing mentally, the instructor sees the boy shudder in disgust, recalling a huge trauma he had with calculus. Sharing a bit of her life, the adult confesses she did not plan on teaching, and the student asks what her old dream was. Giving a shy giggle, the counselor asks him not to laugh at the revelation, and the young listener promises he would not. Clasping her hands very affectionately, the beautiful woman confesses her big career wish was always to work as a voice actress. Recalling her teenage years, the educator describes the moment she fell madly in love with a cartoon on her television. Smiling radiantly, the student back then revealed this strong, dreamy wish, but ended up being discouraged by her old counselor. Showing the old memory, the grumpy school counselor suggests the girl look for a safer and more traditional job. Totally downcast, the poor student accepts the advice as an absolute rule but ends up regretting it back in college. Staring at the colorful poster for a major voice acting event, our college student watches everything from afar, feeling immense pain. Back in the present, the counselor regrets changing her bright future completely because of just a single piece of advice. Smiling again, the woman asks our hero to think very carefully before deciding his destiny from that day on. Quite surprised, the attentive teenager understands that this grand message served as a warning from an older person. Radiating a super affectionate aura, the sweet educator tries to confirm if the young man understood the message to follow his heart. Nodding slowly, the student is extremely grateful for the deep lessons and bows his head in a sign of respect. Looking at the computer screen, the teacher asks if that is the famous Kim Yu-seong, the supposed mafia heir. Laughing a bit, the man cites the absurd rumors about the young man defeating a biker gang all by himself. Promptly, the counselor defends the student, stating that all those violent rumors were just huge misunderstandings. Pointing out the student's broad back, the woman guarantees that he is actually an extremely caring and gentle boy. Scratching his neck completely awkwardly, the educator promises not to judge any student just by their appearance from now on. Right after that, the scene changes to a beautiful sunny view of a traditional temple during the Golden Week holiday. Wearing a green jacket, our hero checks his phone and notes that he arrived at the meeting spot way too early. Looking to the side, the young man notices the arrival of a beautiful girl in a purple dress and calls out to the council president. Surprising the boy, the student points her finger in his face, stating with great annoyance that he was late. Keeping a very bossy posture, the young woman with long hair questions if her partner is aware of the current time. Cornering the boy near a red pillar, the student keeps scolding him badly while he sweats cold without really understanding. Checking the glowing screen, the hero notices it is 10 minutes early, but the boss demands he wait half an hour early for a lady. Sighing, the protagonist apologizes and the girl decides to let it go this time, demanding a small favor in return. Pointing to a traditional shop straight ahead, the demanding president orders him to buy a very cold green ice cream. Indignant at the order, the young man questions why it falls on him, while the friend shows a vein of anger popping on her forehead. Suddenly, a huge red visual effect takes over the screen, indicating that a solid smack on the head just happened. With a large bandage on his head, the young man buys the treat at the counter while the girl smiles victoriously holding her cone. Walking together, the student savors the dessert with her eyes closed from so much joy, and the young man is glad she likes it. Noticing they are just walking around aimlessly, the boy asks about the exchange student's gift, leaving the boss in shock. Hiding her nervousness with a fake laugh, she tells him to follow her, while the hero notices her clear forgetfulness. Focusing on the girl's face, we notice a tiny electronic earpiece transmitting a butler's deep voice. Using the communicator, the loyal employee suggests a craft store 2 blocks away to solve the gift problem. Advising the boss from afar, the duo of employees in sunglasses asks her to act naturally and use her feminine charm. Hidden in a luxury black car, the butler and the maid act on a super-secret mission to guarantee the date's success. After arriving at the suggested store, a gigantic golden multi-armed Buddha statue shines brightly in the place. Joking about the situation, the boy suggests getting the bizarre sculpture, and an elderly seller praises the teenager's sharp eye. Proud of his own taste, the old man shows other items, and our protagonist panics upon seeing $1 million price tag. Giving a friendly laugh, the old man celebrates the rare pieces, but the young man notices his partner frozen like a statue. Chatting with the seller, the girl trembles holding the red fan and confesses to feeling a terrible chill out of nowhere. Quickly covering her mouth, the president whispers angrily, asking her spy maid to lower her voice in the earpiece. Through the radio, the spy warns that the boss was on a romantic date and not on a sightseeing tour of local temples. Looking at his cell phone device, the boy in the green jacket remains distracted while his partner watches him from afar. Totally annoyed by the scolding, the student understands that the main rule of a date is not leaving your partner bored. Suddenly, the young man puts his phone away and grabs the girl's arm, revealing he completely forgot a detail. Pulling his friend, the hero tells her about an urgent matter while the old man laments losing out on his valuable collection of pieces. Walking down the paved streets, the young man questions if his walking companion was feeling completely well. Showing a lot of concern, the protagonist touches her back, leaving the student council leader totally surprised. Quickly, the young woman plays it off with a fan, ensuring she is great, and suggests the next destination to the confused boy. Like a good guide, the secret employee directs the couple to look for traditional clothes in a specific store in the area. Standing before a window display with wooden mannequins, the young man suggests they go inside that elegant clothing shop. Showing a dark garment, the store clerk guarantees the foreign student would absolutely love that type of clothing. With a hand on his chin, the student evaluates the outfit calmly and decides to ask the student council leader's opinion. Demanding to see the shop's best piece, the rich student claims price does not matter, leaving her partner in shock. Smiling extremely confidently, the employee accepts the grand challenge, radiating an aura of burning flames. Immediately, the woman presents a floral kimono worth 500,000 yen, making the hero sweat cold in pure panic. Without showing much surprise, the rich girl asks for other options while the young man suffers inside at those absurd prices. Analyzing several different patterns, the student rejects all suggestions, stating none of them fit her style. On the store wall, a clock marks the time, revealing the duo took a long time to manage to decide on something. Holding her fan, the girl focuses on 2 final options while the young man praises the tremendous beauty of both garments. Friendly, the clerk recommends the student try on the chosen clothes to make her big decision easier. When questioned by the leader, the boy agrees that putting on the pieces would help a lot in picking the perfect gift. Guiding the customer to the back of the store, the short-haired woman asks the young woman to follow her to the fitting room. Slowly, the mysterious employee pulls at her own facial skin, starting to remove the disguise in a very bizarre way. Holding the fake mask, the secret maid welcomes her, leaving her boss completely jaw-dropped. Trembling in shock, the schoolgirl does not understand how her subordinate took over the place, and the woman swears to do anything for her. During a flashback, the spy dressed as a ninja reveals she trained in dangerous martial arts and explains her plan. Understanding the idea, the teenager realizes trying on the clothes would only serve to show off her charms to the boy. Eagerly, the employee tries to rush the outfit change, but the young woman claims she is not mentally prepared yet. Hearing several female screams from inside the room, the protagonist waits outside with a very confused face. Finally, our hero sits in a comfortable chair and waits patiently while holding his cell phone in his hands. At last, the beautiful girl steps out of the fitting room, showing off her lovely dark hair and the flower ornaments on her head. Totally hypnotized, the boy gets a very red face upon seeing the dazzling beauty of his lovely friend. Wearing a gorgeous black floral kimono, the young woman shyly asks how she looks in that fancy outfit. Still in shock, our protagonist stares at the student from bottom to top, unable to say a single word. The tension rises as the young man sighs deeply, sweating cold while trying to regain his normal posture. At that, the leader widens her eyes listening to the young man praise her appearance in a very sincere way. Feeling very embarrassed, Kim looks away, stating that outfit matched the schoolgirl perfectly. Very proud, the employee celebrates the success of the secret plan while the hero praises the beautiful president. Excited, the spy announces she is also going to wear a special outfit, asking the boy to wait a little bit longer. Quickly, the door handle is pulled forcefully, closing off the area for the character's new change of clothes. Blushing heavily, the girl holds her own face, completely embarrassed, trying to process the strong compliment. Turned away, the young woman wonders internally what she should do to control all that massive emotion. During their walk through the city streets, the beautiful couple ends up catching the attention of all the pedestrians around. Parading in a gorgeous purple dress, the student walks with her partner, drawing several sighs. Observing the area, the leader comments on the famous shopping center while reflecting on the amazing outing. After suggesting a break for lunch, the young man refuses the transport offered by the girl, wanting only to walk. Noticing the curious stares, the hero tells them to hurry up, suddenly hearing the sound of a camera shutter. Confused by the sudden noise, Kim looks back, noticing two weird men in suits turned around on the same sidewalk. Pretending to take a casual picture, the disguised guards perfectly trick the young man using the cell phone tactic. Being called by his partner, the boy resumes walking, leaving the secret security guards very relieved. Right after, the man in sunglasses sighs in relief and confesses his huge fear of being discovered. Annoyed, the other guard justifies getting closer to get good pictures, criticizing the young man's huge luck. Going back to following the couple, the security guard tells his ally she needs to hide this hatred in front of their boss. As they enter a traditional noodle restaurant, the doorbell rings, announcing the arrival of the customers. Smiling kindly, Kim introduces his favorite place to eat while the girl observes everything calmly. To make ordering easier, the protagonist tells the young woman to check the menu and says he is going to the restroom. Suddenly, a very loud stomach-rolling sound echoes in the room, along with an unexpected stomach hatch. Due to the extreme pain, the suited agent grabs his belly, scaring his partner with that terrible sudden illness. Sweating cold, the guard blames the ice cream he ate earlier, feeling the situation worsen with each passing second. Unable to hold back the urge, the guy apologizes and desperately runs off toward the restroom. Sighing in relief in the restroom, the disguised guard smiles, claiming that really just happened. Stepping out of the room, the security guard bumps into the protagonist, and both are extremely shocked by that encounter. Immediately, the agent points his finger, shouting the boy's name, while the young man mentions the huge coincidence. Waiting at the table, the president smiles happily, commenting on the boy's return after so long. To the girl's surprise, the student comes back accompanied by the duo of security guards, looking very defeated. Explaining the situation, Kim reports running into his student council friends by pure chance there. Joking around, our hero reveals he invited the two of them to eat together as a form of gratitude. Inside, the young woman hides her anger, internally questioning the massive flaw in her goon's plan. Very excited, the teenager invites the new visitors to join in, while the duo accepts with hesitation. Now together, the four sit side by side, and the schoolgirl mourns the total destruction of her magical date. Whispering softly, the goon apologizes for her partner's mistake, promising to act very naturally. Right after, a delicious plate of noodles with steaming broth is served perfectly in front of them. Observing the meal, the rich girl lets out a sound of admiration, leaving the protagonist a little bit confused. Without hesitating, the young man asks if that was her first time eating the dish, and the lady confirms the suspicion. During the meal, Kim concludes his companion lives in luxury, while the subordinate knows the truth of the matter. Curious about his friend's reaction, the teenager eagerly asks if the traditional meal was tasty. Blushing a lot, the leader covers her mouth with her hand and states with great joy that the flavor was wonderful. Relieved by the positive response, the protagonist flashes a beautiful smile, celebrating his partner's happiness. Offering to pay the bill, the young man listens to the lady's cute refusal, and the security guard fights for the leftover food there. A short time later, the excited group of friends decides to visit a very large arcade in the city. Try to catch a stuffed bunny, the machine fails miserably, dropping the prize into the back of the box. Upset by the failure, the girl mourns the loss while her loyal employee promises to capture the toy. At that, a bright fighting game screen shows the virtual avatars trading many powerful blows. Playing an intense match, the bespectacled agent celebrates his big win, mocking the poor opponent. Totally possessed by fury, the hero glares at the screen, promising to crush the rival for mocking his great people. Quite arrogant, the villain smiles evilly, planning to make that foolish boy pay dearly for his audacity. Pointing out the leftover tokens, the protagonist invites the guy for more challenging fights on the machines. Brutally, the teenager's character lands a devastating fire strike, ensuring a crushing knockout. Laughing insanely, the winner mocks the rival's skills while the man goes into a state of pure denial. Trembling with sheer anger, the disguised guard swears revenge, preparing to strike back in the next match. Hearing his name being called suddenly, the protagonist turns around with a very confused expression on his face. Pointing to a punching machine, the angry man declares they will settle their differences using that device. Staring closely at his rival, the guard states that real men solve everything physically, making the boy hesitant. During the conversation, the mysterious security guard starts unbuttoning his own shirt, revealing a huge secret underneath. Showing off gigantic muscles, the adult claims to be the lean and strong type, scaring the boy with his insane physique. Seeing the huge chest, the young man reflects internally on how someone managed to hide such a volume of muscles. Shaking their heads no, the two girls watch the muscular guy, feeling immense second-hand embarrassment at his attitude. Flexing his arms, the man assumes the challenge is accepted, while the hero tries to explain his complete lack of desire. Taking off his sunglasses slowly, the ripped guy stares at the opponent, asking if the student was too scared. Hearing the heavy provocations, the protagonist's face turns serious as he notices the enormous determination of his adult opponent. Throwing the accessory far away, the security guard flexes his shredded body, declaring that the teenager did not usually run from fights. Flashing a big confident smile, the goon tells our hero to watch his powerful impact attack closely. Pulling his arm back with a lot of force, the muscular security guard prepares to deliver an absolutely devastating punch. Spinning his body fast, the brute hits the machine's target, causing a tremendous impact on the arcade toy spot. Hitting a score of 960, the employee celebrates the new record, praising her colleague's power. Drawing a lot of attention from the people around, the victorious man points his finger, passing the turn for the young man to try his luck. Getting her face close to the student, the rich girl confesses she is curious to see the boy's full strength in that fun game. Crying comically and internally, the boy mourns the lady's false expectations, agreeing to take part in the game. Cracking his knuckles in a sign of surrender, the hero takes a deep breath, trying to accept the absurd mess of that tense moment. With a very centered look, the teenager mentally reflects, stating that the real problem was not the high score. In truth, the protagonist possessed an incredibly muscular body hidden under his baggy cold-weather clothes. Surrounded by a large dark aura, the young man analyzes the situation, believing he is capable of destroying the machine with a single punch. His eyes glowing with a purplish light, the player finally makes his decision and chooses to unleash all his absurd power. Moving his fist at indescribable speed, our hero launches a beautiful attack, cutting through the air very violently. Causing a literal explosion of energy, the impact hits the machine area, immediately lighting up the entire arcade. Seeing such damage, the disguised guard is left completely jaw-dropped, unable to understand what he had just witnessed. Startled, the female Ali screams, noticing the large bent iron structure right below the punching machine's pad. Since the student's punch missed the main target, the electronic display flashes in red, signaling 0 points on the screen. Making fun of the young man, the guy criticizes the boy's lack of focus, while the rival hides his immense relief at the 0. Smiling discreetly, the protagonist thinks about his huge luck in not scoring, planning to fake disappointment over the miss. Staring at the punching device, the protagonist is quite confused, wondering why the score reset to 0. Immediately, the heavy impact detaches from the machine, falling to the floor with a very loud thud. The group of young people stands in absolute silence upon seeing the store's equipment totally broken on the ground. Sweating cold at the display of strength, the security guard adjusts his glasses, declaring that showdown a massive tie. The goon swears he will win next time, pointing at the student, while the boy nods, faking total innocence. After all that confusion, the image shows the entrance of a friendly self-service photo studio. Standing in front of the store, our hero suggests they all take some photos together to keep as a souvenir. The president thinks the idea is fun and is surprised by the invite, while her bodyguard smiles very excitedly. Calling his friends over with his hand, the young man guides the group inside the booth, getting everyone ready for the photo session. The four of them flash big smiles, recording that moment in a cute way while posing together for the camera. Holding the freshly printed sheet, the young man looks at the 4 fun frames filled with poses and funny headbands. Admiring the images, the schoolgirl praises the lovely result, while the security guard complains he was caught with his eyes closed. The dark-haired girl holds the photo, letting out a genuine laugh, and confesses she finds that outing very fun. Noticing his partner's immense joy, the boy suggests wrapping up that incredible day by singing a lot at a karaoke place. With the microphone in hand, the suited brute sings passionately, drawing shocked reactions from his 2 friends. Next, the beautiful young woman takes over the stage, holding the equipment delicately, shining like a true star. The adorable student couple shares a harmonious song, exchanging looks full of connection up on the stage. Already at night, the beautiful view of the illuminated city sets the scene for the farewell, with wishes for a safe trip. The hero says goodbye, waving through the car window to his friend, who is traveling accompanied by her 2 exhausted goons. Completely out of energy, the duo of agents widens their eyes, admitting to extreme exhaustion after so much fun. Resuming her professional posture, the short-haired woman apologizes to her boss in a very low voice. The 2 guards lament over partying, bowing their heads, and confess the mistake of not fleeing that place. The student stares into the void, reflecting on everything that happened day while listening to those apologies. Softly, the young woman flashes a very sweet smile, showing she is totally at peace with her employee's presence. Reassuring the team, the leader says everything is fine, because she had more than enough fun out on the streets. The lady recalls the moment eating ice cream, and claims it was the first time she waited for someone with great joy. Diving into nostalgia, the girl also remembers the wonderful walk in traditional clothes by the young man's side. The schoolgirl admits she was extremely happy with the new experiences, admiring the freshly taken photos with her friends. In an old memory, the little boss plays in a flower field alongside her beloved guards during her childhood. The beautiful teenager thanks her subordinates for always being by her side in life, giving an affectionate smile. Thanking them sincerely, the beautiful girl bows her head, expressing deep gratitude to her traveling companions. Moved by her words, the duo of guards cries silently, hearing that lovely declaration from their boss. Crying out of pure happiness, the two security guards hold the girl's hands, promising absolute loyalty for life. Smiling sweetly, the schoolgirl ensures new future opportunities, and her guard promises to help out appropriately. Speeding through the night, the van travels swiftly while the employees swear to make the next date a success. The next day, a mysterious man with tied-up hair focuses completely on his work, drawing on a digital tablet. Suddenly opening the door, a beautiful blonde girl walks into the workspace, calling out to her dad affectionately. Excitedly, the young woman brings up her great friend's visit, and the artist confirms he is very much aware of that fact. With a very gentle smile on his face, the older man confesses he is quite anxious for that highly anticipated moment. Holding his pen, the adult mentions his daughter's massive excitement about the student named Kim Yuziang. Fulfilling the big promise, our protagonist finally goes to visit his friend's residence on the second day off. Arriving at the place, the boy in the school uniform sweats cold, showing a huge look of surprise on his face. Bowing his body in a sign of great respect, the hero greets the veteran artist, receiving a nice compliment from him. Completely fascinated, the young man stares at the illustrator, feeling the weight of standing before a living manga legend. During a creative vision, the dad's face glows brightly, as if he were a powerful and absolute god of art. Being very welcoming, the host invites the boy inside, warning him about his wife's gigantic excitement. Smiling sweetly, the beautiful blonde mother suggests starting the wonderful meal right away before all the food gets cold. Overflowing with abundance, the table displays incredibly tasty dishes, leaving the young guest completely amazed. Gathered in perfect harmony, the joyful group begins the banquet, and the student politely says thanks for that food. Savoring the dinner, the dad comments that his daughter cannot stop talking about the boy, causing quite a shock in the guest. Explaining his curiosity, the man confesses a strong desire to meet the friend who got so close to his daughter. Sweating a lot, the protagonist feels the heavy tension in the room, trying to find a quick way to avoid misunderstandings. Explaining it is just friendship, the hero mentions their first encounter until the lady screams, dying of huge embarrassment. Laughing happily, the mom tries to lighten the mood, explaining the normal paternal worry regarding that unknown boy. Staring at the friendly couple, the teenager reflects deeply, imagining how he would act if he also had a beautiful daughter. Observing the blonde girl's beauty, the young man fully understands why the old man views other guys as beasts. Complaining about the remarks, the student tries to scold her own family for saying very weird things at the table. Slowly turning her face, the blonde seeks her partner's support while he remains in absolute intense silence. Quickly looking away, the teenager tries to play off his strange sudden reaction, generating doubts in the hostess. Totally flushed, the student loses her patience, yelling at everyone, while the protagonist asks her to please calm down. Watching the young folks, the dad smiles, commenting on the girl's growth, while the mom agrees nostalgically. With a very affectionate look, the illustrator confesses he imagined his little girl being a child forever and ever. During a very cute flashback, the little girl runs excitedly holding a stuffed bunny, wanting to talk to her dad. Holding the man's hands, the little child states with great certainty that she wants to marry him when she finally grows up. Back in the present, the family man stares at our protagonist, mentioning the young man's great admiration for his work. Totally surprised, the young man accepts the author's invite to visit his creative studio right after the good meal. Hugging a paper bag, the student dreams of an autograph, while the blonde thinks he is falling into a trap. Walking through the big house's hallways, the teenager reaffirms his immense respect for the legendary manga artist. Happily opening the bedroom door, the student shows off her beautiful personal room full of cute trinkets and books. Noticing the many shelves, the boy compares the room to a library, hearing the girl brag about that reaction. Smiling friendly, the blonde asks the teenager to wait there a bit, wanting to fetch some teas and snacks. Closing the door, the student peeks, warning her friend not to touch anything if he didn't want to see her get quite furious. Sitting quietly on the floor, the hero looks around, finding the experience of visiting a girl's bedroom very weird. Quickly, the student grabs his cell phone, deciding to play a match to kill time and stop overthinking. Suddenly, the lady peeks through the door, greeting the boy, who gets quite startled by that intrusion. Calling the woman formally, the student hears her request to use only her first name to avoid seeming old. Putting his device away, the protagonist asks the reason for her visit, hearing the mom offer secrets about her daughter's past. Holding a huge photo album, the lady winks excitedly to show the girl's growth record. Pointing at the pages, the woman shows the baby, while the boy feels tense about his best friend's privacy. Seeing a curious picture, the teenager widens his eyes, amazed by the photo showing the girl at a comic convention. Looking at the notebook together, the matriarch confesses she made costumes, and the boy notes the family's strong nerd heritage. Smiling a lot, the blonde finds the lady's greatest dark relic, leaving the young man confused by that new discovery. Displaying a very gothic look, the photo depicts the student striking dark poses wearing gloomy character outfits. Suddenly, the young blonde yells her mom's name, turning absurdly pale upon realizing her worst secret leaked. Shaking from head to toe, the student asks if her partner managed to see the pictures, getting the painful confirmation. Letting out a shrill scream of pure despair, the girl cries her eyes out under the judging and sweaty gaze of our protagonist. Grabbing the boy's shoulder, the blonde argues she no longer wears those costumes, blaming her past delusions. Laughing at the mess, the mom closes the door wishing the two fun, while the girl demands not to be interrupted anymore. Left alone in the room, the teenagers sink into a huge heavy silence, sitting on the floorboards of the room. Totally defeated, the lady begs for absolute secrecy regarding the pictures, while the boy promises never to tell anyone. Crying profusely, the blonde girl tries to hide her face, feeling a lot of shame about that embarrassing situation. Trying to comfort his friend, the young man tells her not to feel so embarrassed about those old pictures. The protagonist says everyone goes through that rebel phase, and the girl questions if he also acted that way before. Scratching his face, the student confesses he was a pretty terrible kid during his middle school days. To prove the fact, the boy grabs his own cell phone, offering to show an old image to his curious companion. Scrolling through his files, the hero finally finds the exact photo as the blonde steps close to see the screen. At that, the teenager holds out the device handing over the evidence, and the student is completely shocked by the record. With wide eyes, the hostess can barely believe the bizarre look displayed on the mobile phone screen. The old record shows our hero wearing dark clothes full of chains and covered in obscure tattoos. Staring at her partner, the lady notices how skinny he was in the past and asks the secret to getting so muscular now. Smiling friendly, the boy justifies he started training hard because he considered himself very weak as a teenager. Joking about the situation, the blonde regrets not meeting him sooner, and the young man asks if she prefers his old version. Immediately, the girl says no, stating she intensely likes her friend exactly the way he is in the present moment. Realizing the romantic weight of those words, the student covers her mouth with her hands, feeling her face burn with embarrassment. With a serene and very calm look, the protagonist calls his companion's name, noticing all her nervousness. Totally paralyzed, the little blonde listens to her own heartbeat as the teenager steps in very close. Breaking the romantic mood, the girl screams, claiming she sees her partner only as a great and wonderful friend. Feeling the sting of rejection, the hero smiles nervously, agreeing with the strong declaration of friendship. Sweating cold, the duo forces a long, uncomfortable laugh, trying to ignore the huge tension formed in that room. Regaining his composure, the boy gets the hostess's attention once more, and she responds, keeping her face reddened. Showing deep gratitude, the student says thanks for the nice invite, celebrating the autograph he got from the legendary author. Touched by his words, the girl swears to keep that day in her memory forever, remembering her partner's daily help. Flashing a wonderful smile, the protagonist offers to return the huge favor, inviting his classmate for future visits. Sitting side by side, the duo goes back to sharing a very friendly vibe, promising to repeat the fun outing. Later, the beautiful orange sky signals the evening outside, marking the ideal moment for the painful goodbye. Holding the gift bag, the teenager says he needs to leave so he can manage to eat dinner at his own home. Curious, the boy recalls his friend's upcoming family trip, asking the destination, and the blonde reveals they are going to Hawaii. Taking up the sidewalk, the hero wishes her a great trip, warning her to use sunscreen over the next few days. Changing his expression, the young man adopts a very protective tone, promising to go save the girl if anything went wrong. Thinking about the huge distance, the boy imagines his own muscular body fiercely swimming through the big blue ocean. Laughing at the situation, the girl plans to buy a ticket with her savings, and her friend praises the sensible idea. Waving happily, the blonde says goodbye until the school day, while our hero agrees with a smile. Walking alone, the student keeps the beautiful smile on his face, remembering the promise to see his friend again. During a flashback, the young man discovers he lives very close to his companion, being just 2 stops away. Sitting on a bench, the two share a tasty snack, and the teenager thanks her for the big compliments to his mom. Reading books side by side, the little blonde recognizes the boy's huge effort in helping the other student all day. With her face slightly flushed, the lady sees the boy as someone good, recalling the moment she was protected. Wearing a hooded jacket, the hero asks the little girl to endure the chaos a bit longer, and she agrees shyly. Racing against time, the young man holds his companion's hand very firmly so they do not miss the time. Back in the present, the student stares at her dear adventuring partner's face, feeling her heart beat strong. Soon, the 5th day of the long holiday begins, showing the beautiful buildings of the famous shopping district. Walking down the busy street, the protagonist holds his phone and says he bought all the magazines he needed. Looking up, the young man thinks serenely that it would be a great idea to find something good to eat. Taking calm steps, the teenager considers visiting his traditional noodle restaurant to cure his hunger. Suddenly, a blue-haired girl appears running and screams desperately, asking everyone to get out of her way. Taking a huge leap, the girl in a beret flies right over our hero's head, causing a big surprise. Hearing a weird sound, the young man does not understand anything as a piece of fabric flies rapidly toward him. Hitting the boy's face dead on, the piece of clothing leaves him completely confused by that bizarre event. Bleeding from his nose, the student reflects on the irony, wondering if that would be the logic of unreal comedies. Shaking his head, the hero snaps out of his absurd thoughts and holds the girl protectively in his arms. Annoyed by the young woman's ungrateful attitude, the teenager asks for a fair explanation after saving that lady's life. At that, a group of men dressed in suits runs down the street calling the girl's name and scaring the beautiful couple. With no time to talk, the blue-haired girl forcefully pulls the protagonist's hand, begging for quick help. Being dragged, the boy points out that the path she chose is a dead end, leaving the newbie very desperate. Taking charge of the escape, the student pulls his companion, ordering her to follow his lead safely. Quickly, the duo spots the traditional Japanese noodle restaurant, walking into the place like good customers. Crouched near the window, the two hide perfectly while the thugs run straight past on the street. Peeking over the table, the runaway young woman scopes out the outside area, verifying the scary rivals pass by. Sighing in deep relief, our hero gets up from the floor, finally able to relax his tired body. Staring at the newbie with a dark look, the boy says thanks for the irony and demands to know the real reason for the chase. Sitting at the table, the girl introduces herself as Sasha and asks the name of the boy, who promptly answers he is Kim Yuseong. Surprised by his origin, the girl asks if the hero might just be a tourist wandering around the huge foreign city. Completely annoyed, the protagonist demands to know the details of the chase while the young woman tries to change the subject. Turning his back, the student says goodbye, wishing her good luck on the run, and the mysterious newbie begs him to wait. Arguing that she is a beautiful girl, the teenager demands immediate help, getting a very direct refusal from her partner. Desperate, the blue-haired lady pulls a lot of cash from her bag, offering to pay for the boy's big help. Shining brightly, the stacks full of large valuable bills show the impressive amount of that offer. Accepting the bribe, the hero shakes the runaway's hand quickly, proving that the power of money speaks louder. Adjusting the beret on her head, the partner agrees to reveal her entire true identity to her escape partner. Delicately, the young woman lets down her beautiful blue strands, revealing extremely long and very shiny hair right then. Hearing her explanation, the boy is very surprised to discover the gigantic power of that mysterious girl's father. With a very dramatic expression, the beauty reports the real kidnapping attempt committed by those suited guys. Instantly, the hero remembers the famous work, recognizing the girl as one of the beloved heroines from that comic. Disguising their presence, the couple visits a popular clothing store, listening to the friendly clerk's sweet goodbye. Wearing a modern outfit with a cap and short shorts, the girl shows off her new style, asking for her companion's opinion. Praising the practicality, the teenager supports the look and gets the huge mission to protect her until 7 o'clock tonight. Turning her face, the lady asks if just that would be enough and invites her colleague to enjoy the big outing. Quite confused, the protagonist finds it absurd to hang out during a kidnapping, listening to her curious justification. Arguing about her disguise, the runaway convinces the bodyguard, keeping her beautiful foreign name a secret. Smiling slightly, the gorgeous foreign girl exudes all her brilliant charisma as a highly acclaimed heroine. Reflecting deeply, the student understands the shift from the original script, imagining the reason for that rare encounter. Pulling his partner to run again, our hero wonders if that moment preceded the very famous work. Deciding to help, the boy ignores the plot barriers, taking on the huge responsibility of protecting the damsel. In a quick flashback, the boy's tense face showed total disgust for the lady's huge bribe offer. Unfortunately, the immense amount of valuable bills defeated the teenager's morality, justifying their current fast escape. Sighing from sheer exhaustion, the student calculates the short service time, leaving only 6 hours of pure struggle. Showing a very analytical look, the female character confesses to being an expert at uncovering people's true character. Recalling the heroic moment, the girl admires the boy's tremendous physical strength, realizing the huge advantage of their deal. Quite confident in her intuition, the girl bets all her hopes on the hero's impressive skills. Ready to advance, the two decide to switch hideouts until they hear a terrible scream coming toward them. Spooked by the fast footsteps, the protagonist looks back, noticing the huge thugs getting closer. Running alongside his partner, the young man concludes the villains are old secret agents, thinking of a solution. During the wild escape, the teenager runs into a gigantic leg blocking his path. Violently, a blonde guy in a suit tries to throw a powerful punch at the boy's face. Easily, our hero dodges the sudden attack, leaving the big enemy totally surprised. Turning his face hurriedly, the boy warns his new friend about the imminent battle about to begin. Pushing the foreign girl into a safe alley, the student tells his companion to hide in there. Closing the big red door, the teenager leaves the lady in safety, turning back to face the goons. Touching his own chin, the fighter analyzes his opponent, noticing a level of strength quite different from the rest. Cornered by the numerous suited security guards, the young man faces the large group of attackers with no fear. Taking a fighting stance, the protagonist feels pity for the terrible fate of those simple goons. Delivering a devastating counterattack, the boy hits the opponent, remembering the sacred rule of romantic comedies. With just a few precise strikes, the student knocks down the attackers, leaving them all rolling on the ground in pain. Confident with the easy win, the teenager keeps his guard up, ordering the retreat of all the remaining rivals. Unexpectedly, a bald man appears and hits our hero's body with a very powerful impact. Suffering from the force of the blow, the boy groans in pain, outraged by that incredibly fast approach. Adjusting his suit sleeves, the imposing captain shows off his intimidating stance before the high schooler. Staring the boy down from top to bottom, the big commander mocks the courage of that meddling kid. Analyzing the powerful adversary, the student tries to figure out if the enemy also had some unreal advantage. Surrounded by a large flaming aura, the brute confirms he got a very absurd strength bonus. Watching everything through the glass, the runaway warns her partner about that feared captain's immense invincibility. Keeping a deadly reddish glare, the experienced guard waits for his young opponent's next move. Smiling discreetly, the hero finally understands the situation, deciding to stop underestimating those rich folks. With a deeply focused look, the fighter decides to end the playtime and finish the clash quickly. Dashing at high speed, the boy leaves a big trail of purple energy on the ground as he charges the target. Surprised by the fast approach, the captain reaches out his hand to try and stop that violent attack. Applying devastating force, the teenager crushes the enemy's defense, generating a purple shockwave. Incredibly, the experienced soldier catches the protagonist's arm, managing to completely cancel out the brutal attack. Using the weight of his own body, the huge suited man throws our hero through the air with absurd ease. Turned upside down during the flight, the boy grinds his teeth, feeling the big disadvantage of that battle. Pinned to the ground, the protagonist notices his opponent's technique, wondering about that attack. Holding the boy's wrist very firmly, the familiar move immediately reminds the teenager of his father. Showing total superiority, the experienced fighter dominates our hero, trapping his body in a violent arm lock. Even while suffering through the pain, the boy flashes a challenging smile and questions using joint locks in battle. Surprised by the sudden reaction, the huge captain feels a sharp pain in his own hip joint. Using a lot of physical strength, the young man throws his opponent through the air while the man questions his attempt to cripple him. Crashing brutally against the ground, the powerful commander's face shows the painful impact of that giant fall. Watching his defeated enemy, the student stays on his feet, assessing the damage done to that suited guy. Very upset, the fighter grumbles about the danger of injuries, asking who would pay for his gym if he got hurt. Peeking through the glass door, the foreign girl stares at her new partner, shocked by the commander's incredible defeat. Surrounded by a large dark aura, the protagonist exudes a lot of power, making his partner doubt so much brute strength. Far away, a blue-haired man warns over the phone about the humiliating defeat of the powerful security squad. Listening on the other end of the line, the voice refuses to believe the news, claiming there are no fighters on par with him there. Walking slowly, the boss listens to the adversary's description, focusing on his dark hair and his very imposing look. Trembling with shock, the bearded guy widens his eyes, asking if that teenager could be a very dangerous legend. Accessing the computer, an anonymous message confirms the big rumor about the definitive return of this famous fighter. Spreading the news quickly, the texts report recent brawls, proving the gossip has already taken over the whole region. Reading it all on the dark monitor, the mysterious lady follows the intense debates, evaluating the incredible hero's disappearance. With a very attentive look, the girl with bangs judges the newbie's huge lack of knowledge as she clicks her mouse. During an exciting explanation, the martial arts tournament gets a lot of highlight, recalling the search for great rivals. In that same defining era, the powerful silhouette of a dark ninja left a mark on that violent combat's great history. Taking part in only a single major event, the masked warrior reached the finals, becoming a very unforgettable myth. Staring at the screen's glow, the student asks herself with huge seriousness if the martial legend had really shown his face. Determined to investigate this whole situation, the girl puts on her black jacket in a hurry, ready to head out of there. Walking down the sunny sidewalks, the beautiful fighter shows off her long ponytail as she looks for our hero. Thoughtful, the young warrior internally asks that mysterious guy to wait and calls out her own father's name with fervor. Changing scenes, the mood gets extremely cute with the pretty waitresses welcoming the great masters. Dying of secondhand embarrassment, the student sweats cold at the unusual reception, internally admitting he wanted to hear that. Tired, the boy covers his face, outraged by the weird outing, while his companion defends that place as tradition. Being very helpful, the teenagers follow the cute cave worker, walking to occupy the small empty table. Holding the menu, the boy listens to his companion joke about their trip and recall the beating he gave the guys earlier. With butterflies in his stomach, the protagonist looks at the choices while the girl in the brick complains about his past actions. Aware of the situation, the fighter mentions the shivers must be caused by an electromagnetic pulse in the area. Totally confused by the explanation, the dark-haired boy hears about combat squads and asks about the acronym she said. Calmly, the girl reveals the name of a giant weapons factory, and the hero immediately questions the reason for the kidnapping. Keeping a calm smile, the student reiterates she is the daughter of someone very important, right as a voice calls them. Excited about the food, the attendant with cat ears surprises our protagonist in a very scary way. In shock over the worker's look, the young man says thanks for the meal while his companion praises the pretty dish. At that moment, the friendly waitress asks the master to wait and warns about a mandatory ritual before eating. Demanding the customer's participation, the employee orders him to repeat the words, creating huge discomfort for the boy. Making a heart shape with her fingers, the attendant prepares the magic and asks if everyone at the small table is ready. Casting the spell with both hands, the girl creates several glowing hearts, making Kim Yoo-seong spit blood from embarrassment. Annoyed with his friend, the young man demands she take part in the weird event, but the worker warns it is that place's rule. Sweating from embarrassment, the teenager clenches his teeth, his face completely red because of the humiliating situation. During the cute action, the warrior repeats the words dying inside, while the fighter cracks up laughing so hard. Without losing her friendliness, the waitress walks away, leaving the hero totally depressed and the girl in the barrett laughing non-stop. Savoring the food with closed eyes, the boy feels immense mental exhaustion but admits the wonderful taste of that dish. Thrilled, the cheerful worker returns, flashing a huge smile and asks if the two customers like the meal. Holding a little headband, the attendant warns about the punishment for the loser of a game, leaving Kim Yoo-seong very tense. Terrified of the item, our protagonist sweats a lot as he realizes what that terrible feline consequence would be. Shaking with fear, the teenager listens to the strict rule of the cute challenge and realizes the size of the embarrassment he would have to face there. Looking for another way out, the young man begs for another option, but his companion in the barrack confidently states he just needs to win. Full of determination, the hero squints with great seriousness and agrees to take part in that crazy competition. Gripping the playing cards with huge resolve, the boy promises to win the game as he faces his opponent head-on. Defeated in the game, the boy puts on the accessory with great sadness while his two companions demand he say a line. Furious and blushing hard, the teenager asks for one more round, ending the sentence like a feline while the fighter laughs. Taken over by anger, our hero promises to win the next challenge, listening to his friend mock his awful look with that item. At the end of the fun visit, the two youths finally walk toward the exit of the place, accompanied by a cute goodbye. Walking under the late afternoon light, the student stretches her arms very excitedly next to her depressed teammate. Turning her face happily, the young woman mentions the late afternoon time and thanks him for the huge fun alongside her skilled friend. Walking under the sunset, the young warrior listens to his teammate talk about needing to confess something. Shocked by the revelation, the boy finds out the goons beaten up earlier were actually the girl's security guards. Apologizing for the massive mess, the fighter explains she sneaked out of the hotel just to be a tourist for a bit. Looking at our hero, the student announces the end of that outing, promising to contact her own rescue team. In a very cute way, the warrior gives thanks for that fun day right at the instant a helicopter appears in the sky. With a very loud laugh, the gray-bearded man in sunglasses shows huge happiness at finding his daughter. Surprised by the flying rescue, the teenager watches the large aircraft approaching the ground in utter shock. Making its violent landing, the grand air transport kicks up dust, making the two youths step back from the wind. Speaking directly to the pretty girl, the fancy-suited man claims he huge ease tracking her location. In silence, the talented martial artist stares at the unusual situation, listening to the newcomer question his presence there. Quite confused by that sudden approach, the girl in the beret tries to understand how her family found that location. Very imposing, the big guy in the overcoat walks slowly, calling the hero's partner his daughter in a threatening tone. Paying no mind to the fighter, the mysterious older man steps forward, reinforcing that it is just a huge personal matter involving the Harris. Taking the blame for the outing, the young woman tries to calm things down, hearing her own dad say the issue did not matter. Right after the short dialogue, the dark-haired teenager realizes the true family connection between the two characters. Confused by the language spoken by the family, the protagonist raises suspicions about the origin of that very different accent. Not understanding the direction of the weird conversation, the student wonders why the big guy mentioned the masked ninja. Being pointed out as the likely hired security, the teenager gives a weird smile after the older man's accusation. Adjusting his nice glasses, the suited man tensely remembers the day the famous warrior vanished off the map. After the ninja figure is mentioned, the fighter goes into shock at the harsh words of challenge spoken by the stressed gentleman. Seized by fury, the powerful lord declares the end of that grand rivalry, demanding to settle the long unfinished battle. Right after, the huge rich man questions the young man's identity, and the warrior replies politely stating his own name. In a very tense mood, the old man tries to uncover any connection the boy has with the legendary ninja, hearing a sincere denial. Totally mute, the three characters stand side by side, waiting for that revealing conversation to unfold. Looking away, the suited leader spares the teenager's life, ordering the boy to leave the place as fast as possible. Very friendly, the student interrupts the order to flee, acknowledging the funny visual coincidence with the martial legend. Immediately, the jacket-wearing warrior hears a serious question from the rich man about the giant security guard's shameful defeat. Scratching his head in a clumsy way, our protagonist recalls the beating handed to the employee and apologizes. Genuinely sorry, the powerful boy confesses he mistook the guy for a thug, unleashing all his strength in a single punch. Consumed by extreme hate, the suited man releases a violent blue energy, preparing a deadly strike at the hero's back. Radiating an intense blue aura, the suited old man clenches his fists, displaying enormous rage. Desperate at the situation, the girl in the beret screams our hero's name with a lot of distress. Completely terrified, the boy questions the man's madness while looking at his own torn jacket. Keeping a sinister smile, the rich man finds it all very interesting and demands to see the boy's strength too. Furious about the cheap shot, the student extends his arm, deeply mourning the fall of his brand new manga. Crying buckets of sadness, the protagonist promises not to forgive the offense against his precious magazine. Fueled by pure anger, the warrior charges rapidly toward the dangerous bluish opponent. Surprised by the great speed, the suited big guy blocks an incredible sequence of heavy punches. After the violent assault, the older man praises the teenager's strength, while the young man pants from sheer exhaustion. Extending his huge hand, the man advances again, hearing our hero beg for an end to that madness. Called a genius by the villain, the teenager is completely lost, trying to understand the reason for the attack. Preparing a glowing strike, the older man reinforces his surprise at seeing a mere student defeat his best soldier. Causing a massive impact, the blue aura fighter launches his attack, claiming it is a totally impossible feat. Staring seriously at the boy, the rich man defines the young man as a rare prodigy born once every 100 years. Sweating cold from the crushing pressure, the martial artist clenches his teeth, listening to the big guy's explanation. Gathering even more energy, the powerful man preps another deadly charge, clenching his fists. Flashing a very scary smile, the powerful leader demands the teenager join his team. Throwing a devastating strike, the suited man promises to help fully develop that talent. Realizing the hidden truth, our protagonist widens his eyes, remembering the universe he was in. Completely in shock, the boy finally understands that that world went beyond romance stories. Remembering action glitches, the hero compares the old man's offer with classic fighting comics. Recalling romantic scenes from the past, the student recognizes the gigantic genre shift in the narrative. During a vision of his own heavy workouts, the young man understands the real reason for his massive physical strength. Landing a punch on a random thug's face, the teenager comprehends his constant routine of battles. Showing off well-defined muscles, the warrior figures out the real reason for so much absurd body power. Looking at the cover of his favorite magazine, the fighter realizes the bizarre transition from romance to pure brawling. Full of certainty, our hero names the famous comic publisher as the main culprit. Visualizing the delicate romance pages, the boy remembers that combat-focused magazines dominate everything. Imagining the poor author being pressured, the student figures out the shameful surrender to brutal fights. Wrapping up his train of thought, the protagonist locks his gaze, trying to foresee the dangerous future of that world. Imagining dangerous monsters around the powerful old man, the boy fears losing his own life in that scary way. Prepping a new attack with the blue aura, the rich man in the suit waits for an answer about the large company sponsorship. Smiling in a very frightening way, the big man promises to cover all the students' expenses and offer absolutely everything. Staring the strong opponent face to face, our hero smiles confidently, remembering the classic rules of grand battles. In the teenager's mind, powerful fighters like him always end up defeated by the work's main protagonist. Concluding his own thought process, the clever warrior understands the huge advantage of becoming close friends with the grand champion. Taking a deep breath to maintain focus, the skilled boy makes a major decision in front of that bulky rich man. Yelling with total indignation, the student questions why the big guy is so extreme about absolutely everything there. Without hesitating for a single second, the old man charges fast, landing a powerful blue blow on the young hero's shoulder. Spitting a little blood, our protagonist suffers a lot from the damage and realizes the clear, fatal intent of the attack. Launching another deadly charge, the dangerous villain cuts through the air as the teenager remembers his friendship with the young classmate. During the exchange of blows, the talented warrior finds a huge perfect opening, prepping a strong bare-handed strike. Slightly surprised by the counterattack, the muscular lord feels the scratch on his own face, keeping his eyes wide open. Right after the unexpected hit, the teenager widens his eyes, noting the terrible move he made out of mere pure instinct. Ignoring the shallow wound, the blue aura man swings his arm fast, gathering even more power in the palm of his huge hand. Holding the boy's two wrists very firmly, the suited leader paralyzes the poor student to give him a piece of advice. Cracking the bones of his left wrist, the monstrous rich man preps a lethal punch, teaching the correct way to strike. With his eyes twinkling in pure darkness, the huge attacker tells the boy to put all his strength into the blow without any mercy. Thanks to his great instinctive reflexes, our hero dodges the heavy punch using his right hand in a very tense move. Missing the main target, the powerful old man easily destroys the whole scenery behind the boy, lifting several rocks. Falling to his knees on the ground, the young fighter pants heavily from sheer physical exhaustion while trying to catch his breath. Sweating cold from his near death, the boy holds his neck in relief, internally giving thanks for managing to push the attack away. Remembering the absurd luminous strength from moments ago, the teenager wonders about the origin of such magical power. Showing off a huge satisfied smile, the gray-bearded man says the dreaded name of that brutal technique out loud. Completely shocked by the harsh words, the poor student asks for a confirmation of the bizarre info stated earlier. Gathering a lot of mystical energy through his whole body, the burly fighter reveals he uses a secret ancient martial art. Charging at the boy, the violent man unleashes countless glowing blue strikes in an intense hand-to-hand combat. Defending against the flurry of punches with tremendous difficulty, the boy takes a severe beating, confessing he cannot see a thing. Dying of worry about the imminent danger, the young fighter pleads for mercy, asking her old dad to stop fighting. Yelling harsh orders, the big leader tells his own daughter to back off, promising to take the boy away from there no matter what. Wiping the sweat from his face, the boy in the black jacket takes a very determined fighting stance to face the old man. Showing off a huge smile, the dangerous older man offers to teach all his secret techniques to spare the boy's life. Radiating immense blue energy, the suited big guy affirms the boy's innate talent, offering him a lot of power. Quite annoyed by the absurd proposal, the young hero mocks the man, noticing the complete madness of that unreal situation. Lowering his face slowly, our dark-haired protagonist refuses the offer, citing he has more important things. Remembering his great friends from school, the skilled fighter guarantees he has no reason to throw all those people away. Dashing swiftly against the blue aura big guy, the talented student refuses the weird alliance proposal with huge fury. Staring calmly at the boy, the powerful gray-haired lord praises the enemy's beautiful conviction during the sudden attack. During the intense exchange of blows, the experienced rich man catches the teenager's glowing punch using just one of his huge hands. Totally in shock at the brutal combat, the girl in the barret hears her own dad promise to crush his opponent beneath his feet. Delivering an absurdly fast strike, the merciless villain hits the protagonist's chest, creating a loud luminous boom. Spitting blood through the air, our hero takes immense damage, getting thrown far away by the suited opponent's brutal brute force. Sliding across the asphalt after the harsh impact, the young fighter tries to regain his stance as the enemy charges again. Panting in pain from the injury, the boy closes one eye trying to take a deep breath after taking the hard charge to his own chest. Granting no moment of rest, the grand leader attacks from the top down, catching the injured martial artist by surprise. Landing another very heavy blow, the blue, bearded man throws the teenager to the ground with impressive speed. Retaking a superior posture, the powerful older man preps his fist filled with mystical energy, displaying his gigantic full strength. Completely terrified by the difference in levels, the boy grips his own clothes, feeling despair hit his battered mind. Moving his body at an absurd speed, the experienced fighter strikes the young man's back with a grand explosion of light. Screaming in pure agony, the hero realizes how much superior that old warrior was compared to the defeated giant goon. Staring at the boy fall into his knees, the man in sunglasses establishes himself as the most formidable warrior of all fights. Desperate at the cruel massacre, the student runs toward the fighters, begging the old man to stop his violent attacks. Placing her body in front of the injured boy, the fighter defends her classmate, stating the boy only saved her life. Overtaken by massive coldness, the huge suited man refuses his daughter's request, prepping a brutal attack against his own offspring. Landing a quick blow to the teenager's neck, the merciless villain strikes the girl in the beret, knocking the young woman out almost immediately. Falling unconscious to the ground, the beautiful student collapses quickly while the shocked protagonist screams his companion's name. Outraged by the rich man's cruel act, the injured warrior condemns the cowardice of hurting his own relative over fights. Slowly getting up from the ground, the teenager in the black jacket holds his wounded arm, showing pure deadly hate in his eyes. Showing no emotion, the suited gentleman tells the boy to shut his mouth, promising to finish the combat once and for all. Releasing a colossal amount of blue power, the formidable leader executes the final blow aimed at destroying the young warrior. Taking a devastating punch from the huge suited man, the boy in the jacket grits his teeth, trying to withstand the brutal impact. Surprised mid-attack, the experienced gray-haired leader looks away quickly upon noticing something coming his way. Hitting the ground with quite some force, 3 small ninja blades stick into the earth, creating bright sparks around them. Stopping the fight immediately, the powerful older man asks about the origin of those weapons while the injured hero breathes heavily. Analyzing the shape of the weapons stuck in the ground, the rich man deduces they belong to the famous legendary ninja mentioned earlier. Cutting through the wind fast, a sharp projectile grazes the big guy's face, causing a huge shock to the grand villain. Arriving by surprise, an age-old woman with a ponytail flies past the old man, preparing a strike with the dark blade in her hands. Landing firmly near the protagonist, the mysterious woman defends the boy, putting the blue aura-suited man on alert. Staring at the back of his savior, the teenager recognizes the female figure with a lot of relief in the middle of that tense battle. Revealing herself as the grand acting leader of the ninja clan, the brave veteran introduces herself, causing huge amazement for the wounded warrior. Closing one eye in pain, the injured student tries to understand why his experienced friend is in that dangerous place. Keeping a stern expression, the older man resumes the conversation, mentioning the name of the martial legend everyone was still looking for. With a very serious face, the ninja reveals she is the heir of that warrior who vanished 10 years ago, leaving no trace behind. Hearing the shocking revelation, the big guy confesses he only heard small rumors about that obscure family lineage. Holding the small weapon firmly, the skilled veteran hears the villain confirm the legend about the existence of Enheris. Placing a small glowing pill into the teenager's hands, the warrior tells the hero to swallow the mysterious item quickly. Glowing with a golden hue, the secret family medicine promises to awaken a huge dormant power inside the boy's body. Releasing the violent blue aura again, the experienced rich man warns he does not intend to watch the young doe's plans quietly. Demanding a lot of haste, the brave ninja leader tells the boy to consume the pill, promising to hold the monster off for the necessary time. Putting the golden ball into his mouth, the teenager trusts his ally, just hoping that tiny medicine will not be fatal. Swallowing the powerful medicine, the protagonist goes into a state of pure shock as he feels a grand force waking up inside. Feeling immense heat take over his whole system, the warrior panics at the absurd level of that hot energy. Closing his eyes and screaming in agony, our hero starts catching fire, drawing the scared look of the girl in the beret in the background. Clenching his teeth hard, the teenager groans in pure pain, while the veins in his neck glow very impressively. Surrounded by huge deadly flames, the talented martial artist lets out a thunderous scream, tearing through reality with pure hate. Observing the absurd level of heat released by the student, the blue aura villain widens his eyes while the pretty veteran freezes. Totally wrapped in the gigantic magical flames, the protagonist lifts his face, radiating incredibly devastating power. Squeezing his right hand tightly, the boy realizes the magnitude of that flaming light enveloping his whole clenched fist. Flashing an absurdly focused look, the boy comments on the excellent feeling of freedom provided by the intense heat. Analyzing his fiery opponent, the huge suited man raises his closed hand, feeling a third eye emerge on himself. Face to face, the great fighters radiate intense auras while the boy feels a colossal force pulse in the area. Observing the boy's strong glow, the ninja is shocked, noticing an amount of energy much greater than she expected. With a very serious expression, the veteran reflects tensely as the incredible effect of that pill lasts only 5 minutes. With an intrigued smile, the blue aura rich man stares at the phenomenon, praising that mystical oriental power with fascination. Surprised by the small pill generating so much force, the dangerous suited man warns he is absolutely certain about one thing. Overtaken by pure fury, the hero counters his words, calling the opponent a cruel villain for attacking his own descendant. Finding the accusation very funny, the bearded gentleman flashes a make-up or smile as he gets ready for the heavy clash. Letting out a very loud laugh, the big guy mocks the situation while the strong teenager stands ready. Pointing his finger arrogantly, the older man demands the young man's attention and calls his spoken words mere weak excuses. Pulling her sharp weapon, the ninja gets ready to help, listening to the rich man dictate rules about the strong dominating the weak. Clenching his fists with extreme will, the protagonist charges full force after receiving the villain's big final challenge. Accepting the combat, the huge older man summons a blue aura shaped like a furious glowing tiger on his own back. Wasting no time, the monstrous villain throws an incredibly fast punch, cutting the wind toward the young boy. Clashing head-on against the oppressive power, the student suffers the massive impact, acknowledging that old man's brute strength. During the intense collision of magic, the gray-haired big guy lets out an arrogant smile exuding confidence in victory. Blocking the strike, the boy focuses intensely on the fight and celebrates the fact that he can finally see the attacks. Using his new perception, the hero swiftly dodges a crazy sequence of absurd moves from the grand adversary. Perplexed by the dodge, the rich man attacks with even more anger, while the boy gets hyped for predicting the hand's direction. Finding a valuable open in his opponent's guard, the talented fighter locks his gaze, timing the exact moment. Throwing a heavy uppercut from below, the determined protagonist counters using all his body's energy. Causing an absurd flash, the fire-covered blow hits the older man dead-on, catching the great lord totally by surprise. Being dragged by the teenager's massive brute force, the villain slides his shoes across the floor, feeling the entire impact. Sweating cold about the situation, the suited leader resents the awful prospect of being pressured by a brat's punches. Charging forward, the focused boy jumps, throwing another explosive strike aiming to keep up the intense pressure in the fight. Crossing his arm in the air, the old man defends himself, noting the clear increase in precision of that mere boy's heart attacks. Cornered by the hero's fast moves, the big guy deduces the use of the pill but refuses to accept that scenario. Summoning a huge glowing majestic griffin, the proud fighter rejects the idea of losing and unleashes a deadly power. Yelling with total indignation, the gray, bearded leader throws his fist back, getting ready for an ultimate hit. Putting pure anger into the attack, the huge rich man tells the boy to disappear from there, causing a massive blue flash in the place. Staring at the lethal glow drawing near, the attentive hero locks his gaze, ready to counter the lord's powerful strike. Throwing his punch with all his might, the young man intercepts the enemy's attack in an extremely powerful impact. Letting out a villainous laugh, the older man claims it is totally impossible to block that giant blast. Applying huge pressure, the blue strike tries to rip the hero's hands off with those heavy claws. Even while suffering greatly under the lethal impact, the teenager smirks, agreeing with the huge villain. Covered in massive orange flames, the protagonist warns his opponent to hold on tight to the attack. Gaining even more momentum, the jacket-wearing fighter thrusts his burning arm forward, repelling the strong enemy magic. Stomping firmly on the ground, the boy wrecks the floor around him, using his absurd willpower against the old man. Feeling the crushing heat burn, the suited big guy grits his teeth, enduring a lot of tension. Finishing the fast move, the warrior delivers a devastating upward strike, cutting through the hot air. Falling back sitting on the asphalt, bruised, the grand older man grumbles a lot, finding it all impossible. Panting heavily, the young winner watches the old man mourn his defeat, citing his own title as the strongest. Totally disbelieving reality, the rich man suffers for having lost to a mere high school student. Closing his eyes and turning his bruised face, the huge man babbles indignantly about that whole humiliation. With his clothes torn, the victorious dark-haired protagonist remains standing, exhaling hot smoke. Staring coldly at the defeated man, the teenager says he hates to be the party pooper for the terrible adversary there. Flashing a proud little smile, our hero corrects the older man, revealing his own nationality. Witnessing the crazy plot twist, the two beautiful girls are left with their mouths open, sweating cold in surprise. Mentally celebrating the miraculous triumph, the girl in the barrett recognizes her classmate's brilliant victory. Defeated on the ground, the ultimate fist leader ends up totally passed out, marking the fall of the big boss. Shocked by his power, the ninja warrior praises her companion's amazing performance in finding openings. Sweating profusely, the boy in the white shirt wipes the corner of his mouth, exhausted upon hearing the incredulous remarks. Running hurriedly, the rich man's daughter approaches the hero, asking about the champion's physical condition. Apologizing for beating up her dad, the teenager regrets the crazy mess he ended up in out of nowhere. Changing the subject, the injured fighter tells his partner he would handle the rest, asking her to flee. Quite understanding, the pretty student says she knows her relative's stubbornness, recommending everyone leave. Suddenly, the brave warrior's exhausted body collapses forward, scaring the two beautiful partners. Catching the passed-out boy, the ninja veteran confirms his exhaustion and dismisses her companion from there quickly. Totally out cold, our protagonist sleeps with a very peaceful face after securing the grand victory. Glancing over her shoulder, the relieved classmate smiles weakly as several onlookers gather around. While the experienced fighter carries the victorious hero, the rich daughter takes care of her knocked-out dad on the asphalt. Showing the grand school's facade, the panel confirms the end of the huge school holiday known as Golden Week. Massaging the back of his own neck with his right hand, the young fighter sighs, feeling great exhaustion after the days off. Walking through the school lobby, the student figures he is suffering from extreme fatigue because of the latest mess. Greeting his classmates in the room, the boy notices the lack of any online news about the violent incident. Feeling butterflies in his stomach, our protagonist confesses to getting even more tense with all that peaceful calm. At that moment, the friendly teacher announces to the class the arrival of a new Russian transfer exchange student. Sliding the classroom door open, Dark Shoe steps forward as a cute voice greets everyone there. Revealing her beautiful long blue hair, the mysterious freshman turns on the charm a bit, drawing everyone's eyes. Recognizing his new classmate, the hero in the jacket widens his eyes, noticing the great irony of fate. Smiling with much joy, the beautiful foreigner says her full name and asks her classmates to use a nickname. Melting from so much sweat, the teenager watches the whispers of the other students praising the newbie's gorgeous beauty. Exuding huge charisma, the Russian girl details her personal hobbies and confesses she recently started to like something new. Extending her arm quite firmly, The young woman points her index finger toward the back of the room full of students. Directing her focus, the confident student points at the scared protagonist, saying the boy's name out loud. Completely pale from shock, the warrior has a mental breakdown, not understanding the reason for such immense and bizarre exposure. Noticing the romantic mood, a blonde boy smiles, finding that sudden confession worthy of a pure romance manga. Trembling with pure terror, our hero realizes the ruin of his own peaceful life, falling apart so quickly. Flashing a wide smile, the foreigner calls out to the fighter, maintaining a radiant posture full of self-confidence. Quickly, the students crowd around the girl, asking about her home country and her quick fluency in the new language. Surrounded by the curious crowd, the friendly teenager replies she learned it all just by watching animated series. Stunned by the commotion, the young man in the jacket shudders as he hears one of the boys question the young woman's feelings. Blushing with joy, the blue-haired girl confirms the suspicions, revealing she is looking for a man stronger than her father. Whispering softly, the students start creating theories about our hero's strength, remembering fights from the past. Sitting at his school desk, the teenager suffers in silence, hearing the fake rumors gaining out of control momentum. Noticing her companion's torment, the sweet blonde girl turns her face, looking doubtful at his suffering expression. Resting her arm on the desk, the friend accuses the boy of picking up girlfriends on his trip, hearing a lame excuse from him. Sweating nervously, the protagonist notices the cliché resemblance of his own answer to romantic comedy stories. Evaluating the freshman from afar, the student thinks it is very wrong that her attention is on him instead of focusing on the true hero. Imagining the future consequences, the boy fears losing his easy life by altering the original events. Putting his laments aside, the boy and his sweet blonde companion are called out very excitedly by another classmate. Arriving in a very cheerful mood, the red-haired girl calls out to her friend and says she came to hang out. Hugging our hero from behind, the young redhead comments on the long time they spent apart, hoping he enjoyed his vacation. Observing the unexpected interaction, the blue-haired student shoots a very glaring look toward the two companions. Poking the boy with her finger, the foreigner says excuse me, demanding a little space so the newly arrived young woman can move back. Totally annoyed by the order, the little redhead asks the identity of that bossy newbie right at their first meeting. Keeping a very confident posture, the mysterious Russian places her hand on her own chest, preparing an answer full of attitude. Grabbing the fighter's arm, the foreigner claims to be his future girlfriend, leaving the other two in a state of pure shock. Blushing hard at the bold revelation, the red-haired girl screams indignantly, demanding a good explanation about the matter. Yelling loudly, the little redhead defends the boy's commitment to their sweet blonde classmate, while the latter panics in the back. Surrounded by the three beautiful women, our protagonist tries to calm things down, hearing the huge murmurs from the other students. Sweating in pure panic, the young warrior thinks about how he became someone's boyfriend without knowing it and acknowledges the terrible current situation. Waving her hands frantically, the blonde student denies the rumors, shouting that the two are just great buddies. Flashing a beautiful sly smile, the Russian student confesses she got it all wrong, and the redhead next to her sweats cold with worry. Staking her claim on the boy, the foreigner leans against the hero while the stressed redhead challenges the newbie to a fight outside. Taking advantage of the girl's tense standoff, the boy tries to sneak away, only to be stopped right after by the attentive class rep. Adjusting her charming round glasses, the well-behaved girl in braids gets the teenager's attention to ask a small favor. Explaining her distraction in the last class, the rep asks to borrow his notebooks, getting a very positive response from her classmate. Handing over the study materials promptly, the helpful warrior extends his arm, passing the big orange cover to the girl. Bowing her body politely, the intellectual young woman thanks him for the help, promising to return the item quickly after copying the subject. Totally surprised, the blonde mentions the braided girl's huge intellectual reputation, hearing the hero confirm her rank. Intrigued by the loan, the redhead insults the fighter's mind, while the boy defends having good grades in all subjects. Curious about their classmates' ranking, everyone surrounds the protagonist, leaving the warrior quite upset by that mutual distrust. Claiming the position of top overall student in the school, the student leaves all the girls in a state of pure tremendous shock. Walking toward the group, the brown-haired boy mocks the hero's dumb face, receiving a strong glare of fury. Patting his friend's shoulder in a friendly way, the new student recalls the boy's smart reputation from the beginning of the school year. Keeping his wide smile, the friendly boy mentions the kindness hidden deep in the protagonist's soul, relieving the tension a bit. Together, the three beautiful students nod their heads, confirming with a smile the immense affection they feel for the strong warrior. Dying of embarrassment from the class's affectionate compliments, the teenager in the jacket steps away from the circle, saying he is going to the restroom. Hiding his immense shyness, the fighter walks with his eyes closed, hearing his friends mock his sudden cute awkwardness. Walking down the long sunny hallways, the warrior reflects on keeping some distance from the new transfer student. During lunchtime in the cafeteria, the group walks quietly holding their respective food trays. Sitting at the table with the blue-haired girl and the redhead, the fighter stares at the blonde standing right in front of them all. Completely frustrated, the protagonist cries, remembering his advice to keep his distance and seeing it all repeat itself again. Being grabbed by the blue-haired girl, the boy denies dating her, while the redhead demands boyfriend-like behavior. At that moment of many envious whispers from other students, the student sweats cold, noticing the pile-up of misunderstandings. Without understanding the reason for so much envy, the hero observes the trio's fake happiness, seeking a way to push everyone away. Suddenly, a brilliant idea crosses the young man's mind, lighting up his face with a big, very mischievous smile. Bringing up the topic of midterm exams, the boy shocks his three friends by asking about their study pace. Overcome by the huge sadness of that subject, the blonde cries asking to forget it, making the fighter apologize. Soon, the protagonist celebrates his planned success, noticing the cloud of depression hovering over the table, and thinks about the future. Chewing her food with a totally gloomy aura, the young girl with golden hair grumbles about her lack of studying. In total mutual agreement, the trio of friends starts complaining about how hard it is to memorize the school subjects. Faced with the group's immense vulnerability, the student smiles astutely, seeing the perfect chance to strike there. After suggesting forming a study group, the brown-haired boy gets several compliments for the wonderful idea. Very excited about the situation, the red-haired boy offers his own house full of empty rooms for the girls to sleep over. Making a very evil face, the hero supports the group and celebrates his own freedom to make his own plans. With the arrival of the long-awaited weekend, the sun shines on the fighter's simple home with little birds on the wall. Wiping the sweat from his forehead with a look of great relief, the young man smiles in a relaxed way after a lot of physical effort at home. Very proudly, the student yells with joy, revealing he set up a private gym in his own bedroom. Recalling his last bodyguard job, the warrior mentions using the money to buy the workout equipment. To make the most of everything, the boy grips the metal bar very firmly, deciding to start with the flat bench press. Lifting the huge weight intensely, the protagonist laughs with pure joy, feeling the wonderful thrill of working out. Totally caught by surprise, the hero holds the heavy bar as he hears his cell phone ring so early that morning. Answering the device quickly, the boy hears his friend's voice ask him to look out the window, demanding his presence. Going to the bedroom window, the boy slides the glass without understanding the message and is soon reminded of their study date. Looking out at the street, the student finds his blonde friend waving happily under a radiant sun. While calling her friend to come down, the girl exudes happiness as she is escorted by a huge group of imposing men. Immediately, the protagonist panics completely, widening his eyes and turning very pale at that bizarre scene. Fearing for his own life, the fighter questions the identity of those threatening brutes with scars on their faces. Completely confused, the hero wonders what that is while staring at the bizarre scene in great amazement. Pointing at the car, the blonde smiles happily, asking her friend to get in quickly and introduces the bodyguards. With a greeting in Russian, the massive bandaged driver leaves the brown-haired young man quite scared. Remembering he defeated that brute in the past, the protagonist hears his friend introduce the famous Uncle Boris. Not hiding his nervousness in the back seat of the vehicle, the student hears his classmate defend the big guy's kindness. Whispering very quietly to the fighter, the blue-haired girl justifies the security guard's escort because she is on her day off. Sweating cold with a lot of discomfort, the boy reflects on the huge awkwardness of traveling alongside a former enemy. Surprisingly, the luxurious traditional residence lit by the sun welcomes the youths with gentle greetings. Welcoming everyone inside the place, the excited big man smiles, accompanied by the young red-haired girl. Immediately, the hero recognizes the girl's father from a tense encounter in the past and decides to pretend not to know the man. Bowing his body respectfully, the student introduces himself formally, hearing a nice invitation to come in. Without blinking for a single moment, the proud big guy approves of his daughter's company, leaving the fighter immensely tense. Crossing his arms proudly, the older man plans for the future, feeling his own hairs question his suspicious face. Changing the subject suddenly, the older redhead points his index finger as he thinks about a new detail. Locking his gaze on the bandaged driver, the homeowner greets his old colleague, remembering the good old days. Explaining the girl's school connection, the dad reveals an old friendship, shocking all the youths in that same instant. Very curious about the bodyguard's recent injuries, the host asks about the situation, hearing a quick grumble. Slowly, the huge injured security guard extends his own hand, raising a firm finger to point in someone's direction. Suffering a major surprise, the protagonist goes into a state of pure shock, seeing the brute report his sad defeat. After the bizarre report is translated, the young light-haired girl screams in absolute amazement at her friend's great power. Faced with the immense destruction caused by the fighter, the host hears another bizarre report, his mouth dropping wide open. Sweating uncontrollably, the hero freezes in pure fear, believing the study session at that house would be cancelled. Imagining getting kicked out, the boy scratches his own chin, secretly wishing for a happy return to his gym. Cutting off the guest's thoughts, the family man leans his face in, highly enchanted by that incredible revelation. Extremely excited, the big older man grabs the student's shoulders, praising the future son-in-law's great skills. Overcome with strong embarrassment, the little redhead yells, scolding the gossipy adult amidst the heavy silent mood of the place. Breathing a sigh of relief after such a big mess, the warrior finds peaceful tranquility inside the traditional room. Apologizing for her dad's bizarre behavior, the kind girls try to minimize all the intense chaos created by the bodyguard. Moments later, the dedicated group settles around the coffee table, organizing their nice notebooks for total focus. Raising her left arm eagerly, the beautiful little blonde hears the leader report her academic weakness in exact sciences. Handing over the organized papers, the hero says they need to memorize absolutely all the formulas for the test. Facing the exhausted girls, the fighter demands total focus, requiring a lot of effort for an upcoming test that same afternoon. Hearing her own name called, the red-haired young woman gets a big scare while agreeing with the master. Holding the notebook, the protagonist mentions his friend's average grades, warning about her huge difficulty with memorization. Very focused, the little redhead accepts the idea of changing study methods while the blonde grumbles with her head down. Blushing sweetly, the beautiful blue-haired young woman smiles gently, eagerly waiting for the boy's tips. To solve her weakness in classical literature, the warrior hands over a giant stack full of difficult problems. Intimidated by the thickness of the material, the girl hears the hero say he did all that for the two of them to solve right away. Sitting on the floor of the traditional room, the four friends begin their absolute focus, reading the dense notebooks. After a full hour of review goes by, the group shows heavy fatigue, with the redhead staring into space, quite bored. Totally ignored by the discouraged students, the focused fighter writes non-stop after the long time passed. Raising both arms high in a relaxed way, the young man announces a break, filling his three classmates with relief. Without understanding the situation, the heiress hears her classmate ask permission to use the huge kitchen and agrees, confused. Flashing a huge affectionate smile, the boy explains the idea, wanting to prepare a special little snack for all of them. Returning to the cozy living room, the cook announces the dessert's arrival, catching the young women on the floor of the room. Surprising his beautiful friends, the student presents 3 bowls filled with a delicious, very sweet shaved ice. Amazed by the colorful fruits, the students celebrate the perfection of the cold, very famous dish of Korean origin. Wiping his forehead with a happy look, the teenager offers the varied flavors, while the girls take pictures there. Keeping a very mischievous smile on her face, the blue-haired girl locks her big clear eyes on her heavily sweating classmate. Completely desperate, the fighter pulls his head away, hearing his friend offer him a huge spoonful of dessert. With the sweet treat very close to his mouth, the tense boy refuses the offer, rejecting the affection with his heart beating very fast. Exuding an aura surrounded by cute little hearts, the bold girl flirts, declaring that her own arms feel tired. Promptly, the host is cornered by the romantic meal, triggering the gigantic jealous wrath of the 2 spectators. Boiling with hate, the angry classmates grind their teeth, hearing the blue-haired girl's bold request, wanting sweets in her mouth. Driven mad with fury, the blonde interrupts the cute moment, demanding the hero's attention and offering her own cold bowl. Following the mess, the little redhead fights for the right to feed the protagonist, leaving the poor guy totally terrified. Pulling the fighter's shirt, the golden-haired student brings a lot of order, declaring she is just a simple friend of his. Processing the recent confession, the host's daughter widens her beautiful eyes, noticing the huge misinterpretation. Gaining a beautiful, mischievous smile of pure hope, the red-haired girl reflects on the non-existence of that romantic couple. Recalling the intense past, the young woman's heart beats wildly over the old gentle attitude of the boy in the blue jacket. Watching the tense fighter try to calm down his fierce classmate, the heiress plans a brilliant tactic for her own romance. Gripping her hands on the beautiful bowl full of sweet dessert, the girl blushes, feeling she has a great chance at dating him.